It's the happiest time of the year if you are an NCAA basketball fan. The finals are tonight. Florida, Duke. Exactly the way I drew it up. I'm coming back in the NCAA Tournament Bracket Challenge.
What did you just say?
Florida, Duke.
Say it one more time.
Florida, Duke.
Do it. Can we get it in slow motion, please?
No. Florida, Duke.
No, Duke lost.
No, I was watching that game.
Nope.
And Duke had the game in hand.
They did, but they lost.
No, they didn't.
They lost the game.
No, they didn't. No, Cole, I was watching that game. So this weekend, I was up in the mountains camping, and where I was, really kind of spotty cell signal. But Saturday night, I tuned in on my phone. I was able to get just enough signal to watch the last couple minutes of the game, and Duke was up 9 points with 2 minutes to go. And then all of a sudden, my screen did that little spinning wheel thing, and it clicked on and said your battery's low. So I turned my phone off. They were up 9 with 2 minutes to play.
They were up 9 with 2 minutes to play. That is a correct statement that you just said. Correct.
Yeah. And then I didn't have any cell signal for the rest of the weekend because I was still up in the mountains, right?
Yep.
But they had it in hand.
They had it in hand, but they let it out of their hand.
What do you mean?
Like they pooped it away.
Wait, Duke didn't win?
FCC compliant.
They didn't win?
Duke did
They didn't go on to win?
Not win.
What?
Newsflash. Duke
God.
didn't win.
Epic collapse
Duke
from the
did
Duke
not
Blue
win.
Devils. That was a little bit of a ruse for you Tolos. The majority of that story was true, all the way up until the point of me not knowing that Duke crapped the bed and Houston went on to win the game. I was in the mountains camping this weekend. I did have terrible internet signal. I did tune in and catch a couple of minutes towards the end of that game, and Duke was up 9 points with 2 minutes to play. And I was like, they got this in the bag. The phone battery said, you better shut it off if you want to have any power overnight. And then they just PP'd it all away.
They did.
Duke basketball can't happen to a nicer bunch of jerks.
You know
than
what?
Those Dukies up in North Carolina.
Not Diesel. I don't want to rag on Houston whatsoever, and I don't want this to sound like it. But as good as Houston played, especially defensively, Duke lost that game. Duke lost it. Yeah, you could say Houston won the game. Houston came back, and Houston with as you just mentioned, Diesel, 2 minutes to play, down 9. I give credit to Houston. I do. But to me, watching that game, it says a lot more about Duke than it does Houston. Houston is a really good team.
Yeah.
They deserve to be in the national championship tonight. They may win it all. Who knows? But that game says so much more about what Duke did not do down the stretch. It was flat embarrassing on behalf of Duke. And now, Diesel, the drought continues. It's been 10 years since Duke's won it all now.
Yeah. Is it too early to say that John Shire just can't win the big games? Because he's only been the Duke head coach for a couple of seasons, but he has lost in embarrassing fashion in the NCAA tournament both times that he's been in there. I mean, last year they didn't get quite as far as they got this year. But, if you are just in an epic back and forth seesaw battle and you lose the game, there is nothing to be ashamed of if that's how your season ends. But if you're Duke and you have statistically the most efficient offense that we have seen in college basketball in almost 20 years. Thinking back to, was it 05 Wisconsin, I think, was just an elite level offense.
Sure.
And you stumble down the stretch and you look completely out of sorts in the last 7-8 minutes of a game, and you can't get any shots to fall, and you can't even get the ball into the hands of your star player to take shots, that's a pathetic way to end a game.
It was embarrassing, man. I'll start by saying this, Diesel. Number one, that was a absolute bogus call on Cooper Flagg down the stretch. It was an absolute bogus call.
Yeah, you got to swallow the whistle.
However, that's not why Duke lost the game. It was a bogus call on Cooper Flagg in my mind, but that's not why Duke lost the game. Diesel, Duke lost the game because they scored one field goal in the last 10 minutes and 30 seconds. I want to say that again. Duke scored one field goal in the last 10 minutes and 30 seconds. That's why they lost the game. 9-point lead with 2 to go. Proctor, if he hits the 1-and-1, the foul on Flagg doesn't happen. Houston Diesel did exactly what Houston wanted to do down the stretch. They amped up the pressure. That's why they won the game. Flagg was great. He had 27. However, I want to hear if you disagree with me on this or not. Diesel, you as well as the Tolos out there at 844-FAN phone. The legacy of Cooper Flagg, who had 27 Saturday night, is that he is a generational type player. He was a generational type player at Duke, but he could not, in his career, hit the big shots at the end of the game. Saturday marked the 4th game where the ball was in Cooper Flagg's hand, Diesel, for the game winner. Clemson was one of those. He couldn't do it. He couldn't do it. So as good as he was, take nothing away, Cooper Flagg doesn't or didn't in his 1 year at Duke have that clutch gene.
Well, I want to bring that up again here in just a second. I have some thoughts on Cooper Flagg and his future. But you hit the nail on the head last week, Cole, when you said that Duke hasn't played in a lot of these tight games. By virtue of the ACC and its weakness, fecklessness this year, looking at you, Clemson, looking at you, North Carolina, looking at you, Florida State, looking at you, Wake Forest, looking at you, NC State, looking at you, Boston College, all the other teams that are usually pretty good in the ACC didn't test Duke down the stretch. And they got a very, very young team. Are we watching Duke in front of our eyes become the new Kentucky? You know, the young guys, John Calipari, Kentucky, young guys, great talent, fantastic. John Shire, fantastic at bringing in elite level young talent, but they just don't have any. They don't have any calluses on them. They're not tested over the course of a season, and then you get them into the NCAA tournament, like what used to happen back in the day under Coach Cal's Kentucky teams when the SEC sucked this badly. And then you've got a team that's not battle tested. You got a tremendous amount of talent. You out-talent just about everybody. And you just can't get it done. You just can't hold it together in the last couple minutes of the game. Watching the last few, and I did have to go back last night once I finally got home and got solid internet signal, watch the last 10, 15 minutes of that game. Duke looked like a team that thought they had the game won with 10 minutes to go and said, let's just run the clock out. Let's protect our lead. If it dwindles down a little bit, we're going to be okay because we got Cooper Flagg and we got Con Knippel. And then they didn't know what to do in the last 2 minutes of that game. Everything was going wrong for Duke, and a tremendous amount of credit goes to Kelvin Sampson and Houston for being able to do what they did. But they had stupid turnovers. They had stupid fouls. They had missed free throws when the game was on the line. You could have iced the game, Proctor, but you missed the free throw. You can't do that when you're playing a team as good and as experienced as Houston.
I think it's more than just the last 2.5 minutes. I think it was the last 10 minutes. Duke thought, Diesel, in my mind, from what I watched, Duke thought they could leave it on cruise control and they'd have enough of a lead, right? If these are two cars side by side, they thought they had enough of a lead to win the race. However, I said last week that Houston would have to run a marathon, and that's exactly what they did. Now, Duke did collapse. There's no doubt. I said it a minute ago, I think Duke lost this one. However, Diesel, I do put a lot of credit. I give a lot of credit to Houston for putting them in that situation, especially defensively. Again, Flagg played well, but they just ran out of gas. Duke, this might upset you if you're a Duke fan, but Duke deserved to lose that game. They 110% deserved to lose that game. Houston can turn you over. And that's what you saw in that game the other night. They can turn you over. They ran that marathon that I was talking about. Flagg missed the shot in the lane versus Robbins. He's done that, as I mentioned, 3 other times. Kentucky, ball in Flag's hand, Diesel, misses. Kansas, ball in Flag's hands, misses. Clemson, what'd he do? He slipped, right? He slipped against Clemson. He's now come up short 4 times when he was asked to be the closer. Houston, now here's where I give a lot of credit to Sampson. With a minute or less to go, Houston didn't foul. They just relied on their defense, relied on their culture. He trusted his players. Duke shot better than Houston from the floor, not from 3. They did shoot better than Houston from the stripe, barely. Houston out-rebounded Duke 42-31. At one point, Duke led by 14. Houston's largest lead was 3. Not taking anything away from Houston whatsoever, but Duke entirely lost this game. If you're a Duke fan today, you should be embarrassed.
Well, the good thing about losing a game like this is you're not really worried about White Lotus depicting a guy wearing a Duke shirt murdering his entire family. So at least that's not going to be on your to-do list of things to worry about over the next week. I mean, this is what they're going to be thinking about for a long, long time. And this is going to be, Cole, the black cloud that hangs over Jon Scheyer's head until he finally wins one. I mean, this is what he will be known for, as having his team with the most talent you could possibly ever get at Duke, losing when being up 14 points in the final 8 minutes. Think about this. Houston's defense held Duke to 1 field goal over the last 10.5 minutes.
You know what, though?
That's absurd how good Houston's defense is.
When was he? I don't know exactly when he was hired. He's been there for, 2 or 3 years now. Coach K retired in end of 21, so was Scheyer 22, 23, 24, 25. The 3 or 4 years that Scheyer's been there, I don't disagree with you, Diesel, that's what he is going to be known for. However, I put it on Coach K, too. For as good as Coach K was, his last, 6 years,
but he was old at that point.
But he had Zion. He had dudes year after year after year. It has been 2015 since Duke won a national championship when they defeated Wisconsin 68-63. Duke is still year in and year out a blue blood. They're not a dynasty anymore because dynasties have to win within the last 10 years. Duke's no longer a dynasty in my mind, being 2015 the last year they won. But, Diesel, what I think is embarrassing for Duke fans, if you go back and look over the history of Duke basketball, and even more recently within the last 15 years, the talent they've had and haven't been able to win it all, it's inexcusable. This year's team was by far the best team in college basketball, especially playing into the tournament. They were so good, and you should be just flat embarrassed.
I was listening to a podcast with Gary Parrish on CBS Sports Radio. He brought out this stat, Cole. This will blow your mind. I don't know if you've heard this stat yet. It took Duke 8:09 in the first 8.5 minutes of the game, 8:09, to score 9 points. They scored 9 points in the last 33 seconds to complete a 9-0 run to win in regulation. I'm going to say that again. It took them 8:09 to reach 9 points.
Yeah.
They scored 9 points in the last 33 seconds in a 9-0 run to win a game in the NCAA tournament. Houston did, right.
Yeah. That's
just absurd.
That's absurd.
Yeah.
It is.
And Houston goes back to the national championship game for the first time since 1984, the last year of Phi Slamma Jamma with Clyde and Hakeem.
And you know what? I get that the landscape of college basketball has changed. I really do. But, man, when you talk about just the talent year in and year out that Duke has, you've got to start questioning things. I'm not saying Duke's doing it the wrong way. I'm not saying anything like that at all whatsoever. But at some point, you have to look back and say, okay, you know what? Let's think about this. At the end of the day, Diesel, Cooper Flagg's supposed to be in high school right now. He's supposed to be in high school. His family made the decision to fast forward his high school years in order to Doogie Howser himself into Duke and the NBA. So here's what I want to know. Is there any truth? Is there any validity to these epic collapses that you're seeing with Duke and you talked about with Kentucky and Coach Cal? Diesel, brains don't reach maturity until a certain age, especially later in men, right? High school was designed...
My wife could attest to that.
Right. High school was designed to be 4 years for a reason. College was designed to be 4 years for a reason. Both coincide with levels of development in the brain. and a human. And look, the rights of phenomenal athletes have changed that. What do I mean? What am I talking about? 4 years of high school, 4 years of college, guess what? By that time, Diesel, you would see players who were a lot more mature mentally and could allow the game to translate from their brain and mind into their body because of what they have mentally. Cooper Flagg, 17, just turned 18 years old.
Yeah.
I don't know that it's fair. In the world that we live in, the society of college athletics, nobody talks about it from a mental development standpoint. But boy, I mean, is there no validity to that whatsoever?
Well, I think truthfully what needs to happen is Cooper Flagg needs to go back to Duke for another year. He needs to go back to Duke for another year. To your point about the physiological maturation that happens in that time when you're 17, 18, 19 years old, he needs to go back to Duke for another year. He needs to get as much of the band back together as he possibly can. Because remember when we used to value the concept of unfinished business? When you had a team that was really good, ultimately fell short of their expectations, they would all band together and say, yeah, I know a couple of us can go off to the league or transfer or whatever, but we're not doing that. We're getting the entire band back together, and damn it, we're going to go win one. That's what Cooper Flagg needs to do. He could be the guy that leads the revolution in player-led retention. Make coming back for another year cool again. Print that on a hat, would you?
You know, it's interesting. It just doesn't happen in college basketball anymore. It doesn't happen in college sports anymore. I'm with you. I wish it would, but think about it like this. In the sport of college basketball, you don't see long stretches, Diesel, of dominance, right? You saw UConn win back-to-back. But before that, you've seen Kansas, Baylor, Virginia. 2020 was canceled due to COVID, right? Villanova, North Carolina, Duke. You don't see long stretches. In the NBA, a team can do what you just said. When the Celtics lost in the Eastern Conference Finals, guess what they can do? They can rally together, they can regroup, and they can run it back and next year win the championship like they did a year ago. You just don't get that anymore in college athletics. You don't get that anymore in college basketball because, to your point, players are so ready to go pro, it's almost like the end goal in college doesn't really even matter anymore.
Sure.
You know, not saying it doesn't, but you don't see teams going these long stretches. You don't, the Alabama dynasties in football, Clemson, it doesn't happen in college basketball. I mean, when's the last time UConn won back-to-back the last 2 years? But Diesel, before that, I mean, you're looking at 2006 is the last time a team went back-to-back.
Yeah, it won't happen. Cooper Flagg won't go back to college for another year, even though he should. And you know why? Why it won't happen, Cole? Because this will be the year. This will be the year that the Charlotte Hornets end up with the number 1 overall pick in the lottery. And karma will never allow Cooper Flagg to be a Charlotte Hornet. Like, karma won't allow that to happen.
God, I wish.
He'll be there in the draft, and the Hornets will nab number 2 again. It'll be just like Wemby. It'll be just like that.
Man, wouldn't it be great, though? Wouldn't it be great?
It would be amazing.
Be amazing.
That's instantly how you start selling out Spectrum Arena in downtown Charlotte.
Building a franchise.
Is building a franchise around Cooper Flagg, a guy from Duke, from an hour up the road in Durham.
Man.
But that'll be the reason why Cooper Flagg goes back to college. And it won't be I don't want to play for the Hornets. It'll be just karma.
Let's run to the phone lines where Dewey has been on hold and wants to chime in at 844-326-3663. The same way you can call or text the Hub City Spartanburgers text line. What's up, Dewey?
Yes, I'm glad Duke lost. They're a bunch of nerdlings, and they all think their poop don't stink. But now it's stinking bad. That coach needs to be fired for that epic collapse, and the team just needs to be disbanded and tried again. They don't got what it takes.
Well, they're about to be disbanded.
Well, they need to, and they should go back to Little League basketball. Not even the NBA, Little League basketball.
Is there enough in the NIL coffers at Duke, Dewey, to get Flagg and Knipple and 2 or 3 of those guys to come back so that they can also go get next year's number 1 overall player to sign on the bottom line at Duke and have just the most stacked team you could possibly have?
Well, back in the day, yes, but not now. No, they all NBA hungry. They think they can go make their millions of dollars. They don't care about education or their whatever they care about. They just care about money, and now they're going to go after the money. That's it.
Thanks, Dewey.
I mean, look, there's not a tremendous amount of risk here, despite what everybody says.
Yeah.
Cooper Flagg could go back to college and get hurt and cost himself a lottery pick. Well, I mean, yeah, that could happen, but you know as well as I do, Cole, the best athletes in the game, they all have insurance policies. If Cooper Flagg were to go back to college and go down, he would get paid out with some crazy insurance policy. Not that he's not already rich, right, from the NIL money he got this year. But he would get a tremendous amount to come back next year.
Yeah.
And if he did somehow get hurt, his insurance policy would pay out. If he didn't get hurt, he's still a lottery pick.
Yeah.
And you get a chance to go win a national title.
I'd love to see it. I really would. But, man, I don't think it's going to happen. When we come back, we're going to talk about a player. You know, we spent all season, the college basketball pundits spent all season talking about Cooper Flagg, Janai Broome. But maybe, just maybe, this is the player we should have been talking about all along. That's next. Well, we talked all season, from November until March, all year long about Cooper Flagg, about Janai Broome, and rightfully so, two of the best players in the game. But the lesson we learned, if that were a segment name over the weekend, Diesel, is maybe Walter Clayton Jr. was the one we should have been talking about. Because Walter Clayton Jr. is the guy that has his team in the national championship tonight. Obviously, we'll get into that, give you our thoughts on the game coming up at 4 o'clock. But Walter Clayton Jr., Diesel, is the heartbeat of the Florida Gators, has been all season. He does have the clutch gene that we were talking about Cooper Flagg not having, as Walter Clayton Jr. has been nothing but clutch with the ball in his hand late in the game. So let's talk about it. Walter Clayton Jr. was absolutely phenomenal in the Florida-Auburn game. Before we dive into it, Diesel and Tolos, is it wrong for me to say that Florida is where they are because of Walter Clayton Jr.? Because they have super talented players, a really good coach, but am I giving too much credit to Walter Clayton? Because the way I look at it, he's the heartbeat of this team, man.
Well, I mean, he is incredible, and he deserves every bit of positive momentum and positive thought that he is. I've heard him compared, not that his game compares, but this clutch ability. I've seen him compared to Steph Curry in the sense that the dude just knocks down big shots. And once the media finally has started paying attention and has finally put him on this national pedestal, he has not shrunk from it one bit. He has been just as good as Steph was when the NCAA and the watching public figured out who he was. He kept being epic after that. Walter Clayton is doing that.
So let's get into that real quick. Side note, good question by JB on the YouTube stream. JB says, have fun at the spring game, Cole. How'd the Tigers look? JB, I'm going to save that for tomorrow, with today being all about the national championship game. Tomorrow, good question. Tomorrow, Tuesday, we'll talk a little Clemson spring game because it was this past Saturday. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. Thanks for the reminder there, JB. But what an incredible game Saturday night to start things off, Diesel. Walter Clayton Jr. had 34 points. He was 11 of 18 from the floor, 5 of 3 from the three-point line. Just the best player on the floor, both teams. Broome was held to 15 points on 6 of 14. Florida was better in just about every offensive category on Saturday night. You know, we talked about this in the very last segment with Duke. Being the better team and losing the game, not the case in this one. The best team won this game Saturday. Auburn played well. They should be very proud, but the best team won. Clayton's the real deal. Yeah. Like the real deal. Really, really, really good. Better team won here.
I have not had a whole lot of positive things to say about the transfer portal and what it's done to sports, and especially to basketball. I mean, we've watched it just obliterate Clemson. We've watched it obliterate really good teams after they've had decent or great years. The whole team just leaves on them. But Walter Clayton Jr. is one of those examples, and you see a couple of them every single year, of why I can't wholeheartedly say we have to shut down the transfer portal, because Walter Clayton Jr. Spent 2 years at Iona, small school. Granted, he was there under Rick Pitino, so he had elite level coaching, but he was able to transition from Iona to Florida, little school to big school, and be amazing at his second location. And that's why, the transfer portal will help bring the best talent from small schools to the bigger stages.
And it's definitely been a key to their success. I mean, there's no doubt. What was impressive to me was the way that he kept them in the game on Saturday night when Florida struggled in the first half, because I had Florida winning. I bet on Florida. But in the first half, I thought to myself, oh, no, this doesn't look good. Auburn's the better team. But what I thought was impressive was Walter Clayton kept them in the game. Things that didn't work so well for Auburn in the second half worked in the first half. It was almost a complete flip of the script, Diesel. Florida went on an 11-0 run in the second half. Here's what's interesting, and people don't talk about enough when you hear about an 11-0 run. The 11-0 run that Florida went on was defensively initiated. Like, their defense was so good in the second half. When you have a closer like Walter Clayton, you have a ton of confidence. The 9-point lead for Auburn disappeared quick because of the pressure. They had so much pressure. That was the difference. Auburn turned it over, Diesel, 12 times in the second half. Also in the second half, Auburn had 8 field goals. 8 field goals. That's it. In the second half of play, when it all comes down to it, Auburn made 8 field goals. They got outscored 16-8 in the paint. And, Diesel, you weren't here on Friday, but I think we touched on this on Thursday. The 4 bigs for Florida that can rotate in and out, that wore Broom down, as I thought it would. He missed some key free throws late. He was worn out, I felt like, and maybe lost his legs a little bit.
I think, honestly, that his elbow injury was bothering him. Even though they didn't make a big deal out of it, even though Bruce Pearl said, no, he's good to go. That's one of those things that, you may feel good to go at game time. But once you are 30 minutes into a game, that the aches and pains start coming back, and all it takes is that being off just a little bit to throw you off your game. Put this into perspective, Cole. Auburn lost 3 of their final 4 games going into the NCAA tournament, including the SEC championship loss.
Yeah.
No team has ever won 3 of their final 4 games going into the NCAA tournament and made the national championship game. It's never happened.
Wow.
And Auburn falls victim to that stat again.
You know what's interesting? Florida had open shots late. And I thought the difference late in that game, as I was sitting there watching, Florida was the more unselfish team, and I think it paid off in a tremendous way. What was so interesting, down the stretch, they had open shots. They passed Clayton Jr. late in the game on one drive specifically that I remember. They passed the ball 4 or 5 times, got it to him. He got an and one late. They were unselfish. That was the game for me. They went up 6. Also, Diesel, when I look back at the second half, Broom had 5 dribble possessions in the first half. Very easy, very simple, and that wears on a player. It really does. Back you down over and over, was the kind of the recipe for Janai Broom. That wears on him. The double team also did not come in the second half. There was no outlet pass that led to easy buckets for Auburn. And also, if you watched, everything on the perimeter in the second half was contested. 20 of Clayton's 34 came in the second half. Todd Golden also, in my mind, had a great strategy. Auburn kind of fell asleep, walking the ball up and down the floor. Bruce Pearl said they didn't want to get into a run-and-gun type game. Diesel, I think that hurt them. I think the Bigs won in the situation that Auburn found themselves in. Auburn didn't get into fast breaks. That hurt them a lot. It was a half-court game. They couldn't get easy shots up. I felt like Auburn needs a little bit more speed at the guard position that could have pushed tempo, got some fast break points. They didn't have the best high-percentage shots. They didn't have the best looks in the second half. And ultimately, we can break this thing down until we're blue in the face, but Florida was just a more talented team. They didn't play well in the first half. Florida didn't. But eventually, like we've talked about many times, the talent did rise to the top. Auburn, as good as they are, the basketball program, Diesel, in my mind, they're continuing to improve. They're not going anywhere. This one loss doesn't set them back. Yeah, Janai Broom, obviously his future matters, and they won't have him. But I think Auburn, the trajectory with Bruce Pearl, I think it's only up.
Well, they have to find somebody else who can be a Janai Broom, right? I mean, Chad Baker-Mazara, fantastic player. He and Janai Broom together, they came back to take care of some unfinished business. Can they keep that up? And Bruce Pearl is, 66, 67 years old, I think. So, I mean, he's probably not going to be at Auburn for too terribly much longer, maybe 5 years tops. Who knows? But here's some interesting, stats and nuggets to bring your way, Cole. Tell me which of these you find the most fascinating, okay? Billy Donovan, the last coach to take Florida to a finals game, was in the house last night.
Yeah.
So that's awesome to see. Carmelo Anthony was in the building. He never goes to NCAA tournament finals games and semifinals games. Walter Clayton Jr. became the first player to get 30 in a semifinal game since Carmelo Anthony did it at Syracuse.
Wow.
What a coincidence there. Walter Clayton Jr. now becomes one of 5 players to ever go for 30 in back-to-back games this late in a tournament. You know who else is on that list? Larry Bird, Wilt Chamberlain, and Jerry West.
Not bad company.
Those are incredible,
Not bad company.
incredible nuggets to put into perspective of how good Walter Clayton Jr. is.
Yeah. You know what's interesting, though, man? Like, you talk about the landscape going back to the last segment of college basketball, Diesel, with the portal that you talked about, it having its positives as much as we want to talk about the negatives, because there are plenty of negatives to talk about. What I find interesting is, at the end of the day, when we're sitting here and March Madness is wrapping up, you know what it comes down to at the end of the day every year?
Rob Brown doesn't know ball.
You said that. You said that, not me. You said that. No, it comes down to you've got to have players who know how to close out games. Like, you can have all the best talent. You can have the elite player. Look at Cooper Flagg. Look at Duke. Look at Duke over the years and the talent they've had. If you could fill out a card when you're recruiting guys in the portal or from high school, and the one box you could check on everyone was this guard, this player knows how to close out games, I think that's the one that we don't talk about enough. Because as good as Janai Broome is, as good as Cooper Flagg and Con Knippel and the 9th best guy on Duke's team is, Diesel, guess what? Walter Clayton has no problem closing out games.
Yeah.
That clutch factor, it's not talked about enough. It's important. And that is why, not to get into it right now, that's why I have confidence in Florida tonight. Walter Clayton Jr., it's easy to have confidence in that guy, isn't it?
Well, both Houston and Florida are, a team full of elder statesmen. There's a lot of juniors and seniors on this Florida roster, and that huge crop of juniors and seniors that are on Houston's team, as we said before, had a lot to do with what pushed them past Duke. So now you've got elites and elites, you've got age and you've got age. The X factor here, Cole, and I've heard some people talking about this, is that this game is being played in San Antonio, 3 hours away from Houston, and you got a whole bunch of Duke fans and a whole bunch of Auburn fans dumping their tickets on the secondary market, and you know who's going to be gobbling them up? Houston fans.
Oh,
They'll be driving 3 hours out to San Antonio, and there's going to be a whole lot of red.
Did you see the parade they had today, this morning?
No.
Oh, my word. On Riverwalk, it was, I couldn't believe. I asked myself, I said, these Houston fans, they don't have jobs? I mean, there were thousands.
It's worth it.
It's worth it.
It's worth it.
There were thousands of Houston fans. To your point, it is going to be heavy red tonight, heavy red. But you know what? I expect Florida fans to travel pretty decently because they've already planned on it, right? It's been on their calendar for several weeks now. They've known they were going to be here. You and I knew it. You and I, we predicted it. We predicted Florida being here, and we both predicted, Diesel, not only them being there, them cutting down the nets tonight.
Would you ever quit a job if your team made an unprecedented run and you could get there, but you had to work that day? Sorry, boss. Sorry. Like, what if the Cowboys made the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Don't laugh.
Yeah.
You'd say to Mark Hendricks, say, sorry, boss, I know I don't have any vacation days, but I got to go. I got to go.
Would I quit?
And if you knew you were going to get fired or you quit to be there.
Would I quit a job where in this country there are a plethora of jobs? You dang right. I'd do it. I'd do it. Not to say this job or that job isn't great. 100%. Take the experiences, man. The experiences you'll never be able to get back.
Speaking of Rob Brown doesn't know ball, he's now in 82nd place.
That's good, though, right?
NCAA
Golf, like for golf?
No, well,
not golf?
Maybe in the world, but he's behind me, Cole, and I had one of the worst starts you could possibly have. And Rob had Duke winning the national championship.
But
so I'm going to beat Rob no matter what, but if Florida wins, I'm climbing that ladder. So are you. You're sitting in 15th place.
But if you keep saying you know ball, eventually people will believe you, right?
Yeah. Here's the air coming out of Rob Brown's balloon when he found out that he doesn't know ball as well as he thinks he does. When we come back, Cole, over the weekend, I was hanging with some friends, and one of them revealed some way that she stalks her friends online without their knowledge of it. And the question is this a lane violation or not? We'll talk about it next on the Fan Upstate. TV in the studio was replaying the series of events that happened with Duke's loss on Saturday night.
Was it Titanic? You said it was playing?
Yeah, exactly. When Proctor misses that free throw, that's just one of those moments where if you're a fan, like, we're losing this game.
That was bad. That was bad.
Yeah.
I thought that with one of the other many opportunities, I thought that was the nail.
Yeah.
The death nail.
It's like you could just tell.
Yeah.
You could just tell in that moment that Houston would not be denied, that there's nothing that Duke can do. They are on the ropes. So like one of those boxing movies where you see the bad guy take the one hit that's kind of got him stunned and he's sort of wobbling there for a second, and all the hero has to do is take one uppercut and knock him into the third row, and it's over. And that was that moment for Duke. And then, of course, there was that 15-foot little jumper from Cooper Flagg from the corner, and it just kind of fell flat. So it's Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole. Bryson Tolos, appreciate you for being along with us on the ride. We are streaming right now on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. The show, you can watch it. 74 Tolos watching the show right now as we speak. A little housekeeping notice for you on Wednesday. That would be this coming Wednesday, the 9th. The show will be live at Ingles at 1500 Gear Highway in Travelers Rest. So you TR Tolos, we want to see you on Wednesday. But Cole, I told you before, I was out camping this weekend, didn't have a whole lot of signal. It was nice to get away.
Yeah.
Just went up to Gorges State Park, just on the north side of Pickens.
It was gorgeous?
It was great. It was, gorgeous, not gorgeous, gorgeous. I don't like saying that way. Anyway.
I like gorgeous better.
Anyway, fantastic state park. It's up where like Turtleback Falls is, and Rainbow Falls. So if you guys have ever hiked that area, you go down a little bit farther into the park, and there's some camping areas. But we had a great time. A couple of our friends, Cole, came up to hang out with us for the day and just kind of hang out. As you're sitting around, the conversation shifts and moves and goes into all different places. And a friend revealed her newest fascination of where she stalks people without them realizing it and judges the hell out of them for it. And I want to know from you and from the Tolos at 844-FAN-PHONE, 844-326-3663, the Hub City Spartanburgers text line. Is this what I'm now calling a lane violation? She goes on people's Venmo, looks at their transaction history, and judges her friends negatively for the kinds of things that they transfer money to other people for.
Yeah, and it's on the home page. Like,
yeah, everybody can see it.
You don't have to search for anybody.
No.
It's like Facebook, right?
Yeah.
Or text message, but you're just seeing who transferred money to who and why. I don't look at it. I don't like it.
I hated it when I first got Venmo, and Ashley and I were dating, and we had to, it's like, all right, I picked up dinner tonight. It was $100, and to keep things, we go to fancy spots to keep things even.
Yeah.
It's like we have a rule: if dinner's over like $40, $50 tops, we'll split it. Just that way, one person is not always footing the bill for it. So you would see like, hey, Greg paid Ashley $50 for steaks, Yeah. And I hated that feature when I first saw it because that feels like a violation of my privacy. I don't want my friends knowing
I don't ever
what
use
I'm doing.
The public. I always use the private. So 0 of my transactions are public for people to see. I don't want people seeing what I'm sending and who to and why.
Right.
You can choose private, right?
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Say I can see right here, right now, public information, okay? Public information. I can see that Rob Brown's wife transferred money to somebody for a shirt emoji and orange emoji.
Yeah, so
an orange shirt maybe, or maybe somebody spilled orange juice or mimosa cocktails on someone else's shirt, so they're paying. See, I like to believe that somebody drank too many mimosas, threw up on somebody's shirt, and somebody's paying somebody for said shirt that they've ruined.
See, I just don't want people knowing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I don't want people knowing where I'm sending money and to who. So whenever I do it, you can go at the very bottom right before you hit send. You can hit private.
You have to do that every time, though?
Yeah, every time.
That sucks.
But it's worth it.
Venmo. What are you doing?
It's worth it.
Like they tried to turn transferring money to people into some sort of like social media
It's dumb.
app or something like that, and I hate it.
No, I don't want
I
that.
absolutely hate it.
That's why you always got to choose private. Always choose private. That way nobody sees it, and you just send it. Obviously, Venmo knows, but nobody else knows.
So is it a lane violation though to like just scroll down and see what everyone else is spending
No,
money
but
on?
it shows that you need a job. You need to go you have too much time on
you need
your hands.
hobbies.
Yeah, you have too much
You
time.
need hobbies. Go
You're
fishing, would you?
scrolling through Venmo. I mean, come on.
Learn how to rig up a wacky rig.
Yeah.
Learn how to set up a Texas rig.
Yeah, I don't do it. I always go private, and when I do get on Venmo, I never look at the homepage. I always just go to the bottom, send, receive, whatever, and be done with it. It's a pain. It's a pain.
By the way, don't forget to Venmo me for half of that colonoscopy.
Oh, yeah, I forget about that. I want to remind you that we do have a fantastic guest joining us at 4:20 to talk about the game tonight, national champion. Did you know there was a national championship tonight? What do you mean? We'll talk about it next.
Already?
close later in the show, we will ask for your predictions of what's going to happen tonight. National championship, Florida versus Houston. Literally at this very moment, I'm putting it on our Facebook page as well. What is your national championship prediction? If you have not done so already, make sure you give us a like or a follow over at The Fan Upstate on Facebook. You can also follow us on Twitter at The Fan Upstate. Diesel is at Diesel on radio. I'm at The Cole Bryson on Twitter, on X. But there is a place right now for you on our Facebook page to go. Put your predictions. Coming up in the 5 o'clock hour, we are going to get to that. We have a lot more to get to in the show. Obviously, as I said just a few minutes ago, we'll be joined by someone in the very next segment that is going to give us a deep dive on Florida basketball, what to expect tonight. We'll get into what happened wrong for the Lady Gamecocks in a national championship game yesterday that was not close. A brutal day for the Gamecocks, but not really a surprise for anyone. We'll get into that at 4:45. Overreaction Monday at 5 o'clock, Tolos. Be ready for that coming up at 5 p.m. Audio Blitz from the weekend. A very national championship heavy show for you as we get you prepared for tonight's game. And then, as I said in the last hour, the spring game, the Clemson spring game, did happen on Saturday. Diesel. Quick snippet, very quick snippet. I'll give you my full thoughts tomorrow. But spring game, I think I'm finally on team get rid of them unless you're going to play another opponent. Just what's the point at this? It's get rid of them unless you're going to play another opponent. That's where I stand on spring games.
And hopefully your stance is leaning more towards play somebody else, because having nothing, when you take the opportunity for fans to come on campus and spend money,
you have to have
away from them. I don't think that's the way to go. I mean, just having some sort of a lame fan fest, it's an autograph session, you're going to lose half of the potential, fans who would come to see you. So I am all on board with having spring games. App State didn't have one for a long time under Sean Clark. That was one of his things. We don't do spring games for Sean Clark. And Dowell Loggins bringing that back to App. So I'm excited for it. And I think they have their place, but I think it's time to
I think
adjust
they need
and change
yeah.
and improve on the concept, whatever that may look like. And we've spent a lot of time talking about it, so we don't need to rehash.
In the next segment, we'll talk to David Soderquist of HighTop Sports. He covers the Florida Gators in Gainesville tonight. Florida versus Houston, national championship. No score predictions yet, Tolos, but we do want to hear from you. What are your initial thoughts when you knew that this was going to be the game that's played tonight, national championship, Houston, Florida? This is the matchup. What were your initial thoughts? What are you leaning toward? What are you looking forward to seeing the most tonight? Again, don't give us your score predictions yet. We'll save that for 5:20 to give the Facebook post some time to get some comments. Go over to the Facebook page at the Fan Upstate and leave yours there. But that's what I want to know. What were your initial thoughts when you saw this matchup? Florida-Houston, it's not a surprise. 2 1 seeds. Diesel, you and I both had Florida in the game. Both have Florida winning tonight, cutting down the nets. What were your initial thoughts when you got back to, civilization this weekend and saw that this was a national championship?
First was let me dry out because everything got soaked with a heavy rainstorm yesterday morning, Sunday morning. No, my opinion on Florida hasn't changed very much. I mean, they're an older team where the stars are juniors and seniors and a couple upperclassmen. There are a couple graduate transfers on top of that. I think Florida just is such a consistent team. And it's wild, Cole, as good as Florida is, they don't really get recognized because you had Janai Broome up at Auburn, you had Cooper Flagg over at Duke. They've sort of taken a little bit of a step back or out of the limelight, and I guarantee you Todd Golden loves it that way.
No, I think he does. My initial thoughts were, really interesting matchup within the game. What do I mean? Walter Clayton Jr., sensational type player. As we mentioned in the first hour, he's really good with the ball in his hand late. He has that clutch factor. He has that clutch gene. And then you look at what he's going up against Houston. a really good defensive basketball team that has the threat, the ability to score the basketball. They're well coached. It seems like Kelvin Sampson's been coaching for 404 years, but maybe Kelvin Sampson's time is now. What a job Todd Golden's done at Florida. I think it's a great, fascinating matchup. Houston deserves to be there, even though you and I both talked about in the last hour that Duke had a epic collapse, Diesel. Houston deserves to be there. They did what it took down the stretch to win that game. Florida was the better team in that Auburn game. My initial thoughts, Florida's the better team, but not by much. My initial thoughts are that Florida has the guard play plus that four-man rotation in the post to be able to handle whatever Houston throws at them defensively. I think the four in the post, the way they can rotate, the way they can produce offensively and defensively, I think that's what makes this team so complete. The phone lines are open at 844-FAN-PHONE. That's 844-326-3663. To those on the stream, let's hear from you as well. Let's get those numbers up a little bit. Get the interaction up on the show, the text line. It's the Hub City Spartanburgers text line. It's open. Phone lines are open as well. Buckeye Mike, Diesel, on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line. You know what? I'm not going to read Buckeye Mike's text. I'm mad at Buckeye Mike. Do you know why? Buckeye Mike, I'm mad at you. Do you know why I have some beef with you today? Diesel, I didn't know this. But I love Buckeye Mike. I've met him in person. Buckeye Mike's a Tolo. He listens to the show. At least I thought he was. He listens to the show, right? He calls in. He interacts. He does what Tolos do. And what do? I log on last night or over the weekend, the Wire to Wire ESPN Bracket Challenge, and guess what I see? Buckeye Mike TRBS. Are you kidding me? Buckeye Mike, have you turned on us?
Buckeye Mike, that's a really weird way to spell Judas. Like, to be honest, I mean, we thought you were on our side.
And then all of a sudden,
and then all of a sudden, you go and do something like this.
He's got TRBS beside his name. I saw that, and I said, man, that Buckeye Mike, he was a good one. I thought he was a Tolo. I thought he knew the difference between right and wrong, right, good and evil, but evidently not. So, as you mentioned earlier, Diesel, there are a few TRB, what do they call it? Paramedics, elite.
BSers?
What are their names? They paramedics, elitist, or whatever. But play-by-play JB is holding it down for the Tolos. He's in the number one spot. I mean, that came out of nowhere.
6 out of top 10, Cole. 6 out of the top 10 currently are Tolos.
That's what I'm talking. That's good. Also, as JB, a different J. Think about this. The two leading the bracket challenge are two different guys who listen to this show whose name is both JB.
What are the odds?
I know.
What are the odds?
Play-by-play JB's one. Number two is JB Slam Dunk. That's JB who's always on the YouTube stream, right? Mm-hmm. Then you have Tar Heel Andrew TRBS, whoever that is, in third. Buckeye Mike after that, who, as you said, has become Judas on us all of a sudden. After that, you have Rob Brown's daddy, which is Mike Main. Mike Main's a Tolo. There's no TRBS in his title.
Love it.
Right? Sherb, 1, Tolo. F.I. Furry, Tolo. The Armada Captain, is that Kane? The Armada Captain? I don't.
Yeah,
I think it is.
But here's the thing about Kane, is that he picked Duke to win the national championship.
And Duke, did they win?
Well, according to when I stopped watching the game on Saturday night, Duke did win the game. But no, he has Duke winning the national championship.
He does.
So he's gonna fall.
Yep.
He's gonna fall. 6 out of the 123 total entrants into our wire-to-wire bracket, and we're our bracket challenge, and we're so stoked to have 123 people, whether they're Tolos or elitists, filthy elitists.
Yep.
We have 123 in there, and that's great.
It is great.
6 picked Houston to win this thing. 2 of those who picked Houston, Cole, are sitting inside the top 10 right now. And I don't know exactly how the points are going to get doled out in this thing, but I would have to assume that those two Tolos, or those two people who picked Houston, are gonna jump to 1 and 2.
You would think so,
just
right?
Because I think it's like a graduating system. It's like in the first round you got 10 points for a right pick.
Yeah, I think you're
in the
right.
second round you got 20 points. Third round 30 points, et cetera, et cetera. And obviously you can't score anymore if a team that you had going the distance ended up getting eliminated early.
Hurricane Jeff, outside the top 10, but not too far outside, also picked Houston.
Yes, he did.
JB on the YouTube stream. There's two different. This is confusing as heck, but here's his message. This comes from JB on YouTube, who needs he needs something in his name as well to distinct him from play-by-play JB. JB on YouTube says, the other JB will win the bracket challenge if Florida wins tonight. Me and the other JB both picked Florida and Houston in the championship game, and we both picked Florida. So if the Gators win, I'll finish second. Two JBs, top 2 of the bracket challenge.
Whatever happened to, and I've already forgotten his name because he's not trustworthy enough to bother remembering it, the Judas who was listed originally as an Armada elitist,
Stephen Webb.
Stephen Webb, and then he turned heel and he came to our side, and then he flipped to their side and he came back to our side. He's just a flapjack.
It's a flounder. That's what he is. He's a flounder.
Where is he
flapjack.
In this thing now?
And nowhere to be found because of his antics.
Because of your personal life choices, Stephen Webb, if that is your real name.
Let's see on the text line. Buckeye Mike did respond. Here we go. I gotta see the first one. LOL, I've been listening to the Rob Brown Show and Lonzo longer. Well, that's true because they have been in existence longer. So good point there. He says, I love both shows. I wasn't going to put anything after my name until a listener chose Tolo, and it was a friend of Rob's, so I just evened it out. Love you. I guess, Buck. I guess.
Unacceptable.
It is.
Now that said, you could go in and change it right now.
And I wish
you could make the right choice right now.
He could. I wish we could change it. So what do you think happens tonight, Tolos? Like, what are you leaning? What are you looking forward to the most? JD, gosh, what the J's and the B's and the D's.
This is why we need you guys to sign your texts.
Yeah.
Because we got so many JBs, JDs, JLs, FJs, TJs,
JFJs,
BJs,
I mean, it's
EJs.
ridiculous. JD on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line says, I got to say this game tonight will be low scoring. Florida and Houston both have comeback potential, so they both will play lousy to play from behind. Leprechaun of Lyman says, Rob's a great guy, but Tolo for life. How about that, man? That's what I'm talking about, Leprechaun. The Tolo for life. You dang right, man. Leprechaun of Lyman's got his life figured out. JD, I don't disagree with you on the low scoring aspect of it. Houston, yeah, I guess you could say they have the potential to come back, or could I argue that Duke just gave them a path to come back the other night? I do think it's going to be.
Well, I think that the maturity that we talked about before is what Kelvin Sampson was able to tap into to relay to his team. This game is not over, and Houston wasn't playing well.
Matters.
Houston did not play well in the first half of that game. Yet they never got down by 20 points, right? So they always kept it sort of within striking distance. When a game hits 20, there's a real good chance that it's over. But if it's like 16, 15, 14 points, you can make a run and make the game interesting. So credit to Houston where that's concerned. Florida has had 4 double-digit comebacks to win games this year. So they've shown the ability to JD's point there.
No, that's nice. The over-under, also to JD's point about it being low scoring, Vegas has set the over-under for this game tonight at 140.5.
Ooh.
So they're expecting 70-ish points around that, maybe a 72-68 type game.
They're expecting defense.
Defense tonight, not a yes or no, quick off the cuff. Does it go over or under tonight?
At 140?
140.5. You're looking at about
Over?
70.
I think it goes over.
And I was initially leaning over.
I think
even
Florida
though it's-
scores in the low 80s. Houston's sitting there in the high 70s.
See, initial reaction, I thought over too, but let me think. It is a championship game. Things it's condensed. It gets slowed down. My initial thought is over, but that is interesting. JD, the Tolo elitist, as he signed his text this time, says, I don't think they'll intentionally play lousy. I just see it shaking that way. No, I'm with you. I think it does have a lot to do with Florida's pace of play, though. Like, when you look at the way they do push the ball, unlike Auburn, I mean, my goodness, Auburn, they couldn't push the ball to save their lives on Saturday night. I think Florida's pace will kind of dictate the way that Houston has to not only defend, but also play their game on offense. And I think Florida is the team that will come out and set the pace, set the tone. I think Florida comes out, and I think they jump on Houston early, Diesel. Could Houston absolutely win the game? Sure. What Houston did to Tennessee a couple of days ago, I mean, it was phenomenal. They obliterated Tennessee, right? We still remember that. I had Tennessee winning that game. I was dead wrong there.
And transitive property, Tennessee blew the doors off of Florida earlier this year by like 20-some-odd points. So that means, ipso facto, Houston's going to win by 40.
And Tennessee's better than Duke.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Isn't that how that works?
Yeah.
I don't know. I really do think it's going to be a good game. I'm looking forward to it. I hope, Diesel. I'm going to say it again. I hope the referees tonight let them play. Let Houston, who's a physical team, who likes to get up in your face, especially Florida in the post. I hope the officiating tonight lets them play so that we're not sitting here tomorrow having the conversation about I can't believe they made that call late in the game. I want the officials to not swallow the whistles, but I want to see a good called game tonight, a well-called game rather by the official tonight, Diesel, but ultimately, I think what Walter Clayton Jr. brings to the table will be a little too much.
And a deep dive on this game coming your way next as we bring on the show for the very first time, David Soderquist of HighTop Sports. He covers Florida. We'll be talking with him about that next on the Fan Upstate. Tolos, you got to plan your night out very effectively. You got to eat light, okay? You can't stuff in a whole bunch of food and get those sleepies midway through the second half and end up missing the tail end of this basketball game because it's got a late tip here on the East Coast. 8:50 on CBS, Florida versus Houston for the national championship game. And to talk about it, we go to the phone lines. For the very first time, we bring on David Soderquist of HighTop Sports. He covers Florida, joins us on the show here on Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. David, thank you so much for taking time. I know you're probably inundated over these last couple of days with so much going on. Can you give us a sense of the tenor of the Florida fan base right now? Are they confident and calm as if they have a feeling this is inevitable and it's going to happen? Or after watching what Houston was able to do to a very, very good Duke team over the weekend, is the Florida fan base feeling a little bit nervous?
I think there's a little 50-50 there. I mean, I've talked to a bunch of Florida fans that watch our show. They feel very confident in the offense and the way that Walter Clayton's been playing and Elijah Martin down the stretch. But you also have the other 50% of the fan base that's kind of tamed. They're, the nerves are up always, of course, for each team. You're playing for a national championship, something Florida hasn't been able to do since 2007 with we obviously know who was playing there, but I mean, the Florida fan base has always been almost there, but then something would happen. Ever since the Urban Meyer era and ever since, that era of basketball, Florida fans have just been, anticipating something to happen in one of the sports. And right now you're at the pinnacle. Of course, baseball has won their World Series, but when you get to March Madness, when you get to basketball, they always say Florida, football is the cash cow, but I would think the strongest second is men's basketball. And so you're seeing a lot of Florida fans more tame and just saying, hey, look, we think we can win this one easy, but let's be tame here because that Houston D is something for real.
They certainly are, David. It's Cole here. I heard a takeover the weekend on a podcast. I believe I saw it on TikTok, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it. That the experience from a fan's point of view of March Madness, having a team make a deep run, is by far the best fan experience at the college level, whether it be football, making a national championship, or baseball World Series. Would you agree that being on the run, the road, the ride throughout March, right, making a tournament and then making a run in March, from the Florida fans that you know and have talked to, would they echo that sentiment in terms of this being the best fan experience one could have?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look at just March Madness and basketball as a whole throughout the years. I mean, your team has to be very battle tested. They have to be very. You can't make a lot of mistakes in games, and if you do, you got to make up for those mistakes. And you've really got to be on your P's and Q's in this tournament. I mean, there's 64 teams. Obviously, the playoff is kind of moving to a 16-team sort of thing, so you don't see it much in football as you do with basketball, but. There's a lot more games and there's a lot more grit and there's a lot more action in these games and a lot more emotion throughout the whole season, especially when your team is on a run like Florida, like a Houston, like a Duke that, their fans now down in the dumps thinking they were going to make it to a national championship. Houston comes back and upsets them. I'm sure everybody had Duke in their bracket at least going to the national championship, if not winning it. So I can understand where the emotional ride, especially not even just from a Florida fan aspect, from a fan aspect from any team being on that ride and getting all the way to the national championship and having to go through what you have to go through. It has to be, from an emotional fan standpoint, it has to be like heart attack stress level every single time that your team goes out there and plays because only one loss in that tournament and you're done. You're history. We saw it with Texas Tech. It looked like Florida was down and out against Texas Tech. They storm back. They win that game. A UConn team that won 2 national championships in a row, they go and play Florida one more time, and Florida pulls it off. And I'm sure UConn fans didn't feel great about that. So it's like, yeah, you make it all this way, and you just really, really, really want your team to win that national championship. I'm sure Houston fans are feeling the same way, but the Florida fans, especially, as I said, with not everything going since Billy Donovan and Urban Meyer have been here, they're really jonesing for a big title, either in men's basketball or football.
So, David, to that point, with two big time coaches on campus, who's the bigger rock star right now between Todd Golden and Billy Napier, who I know Billy had his struggles, but he ended the 2024 season on a 5-game win streak. A lot of people, especially not so much the fans, because fans are fickle, but the people who know what kind of a coach Billy Napier is. And so who's the bigger rock star now? I think if Florida wins a national championship tonight, your answer might change.
Yeah, I would say that. If Todd Golden pulls this off, wins a national championship, you're going to have Florida fans saying, all right, Billy Napier, now it's your turn. So he would be the bigger rock star as of right now. And, of course, you got to look at what Todd Golden's done with this team since he's been here. I mean, last year didn't go the way you wanted it to in the tournament. That was a very over 100 points for both teams that game. Didn't pull it off there. And then you come into the tournament now, you're sitting here in the national championship. Billy Napier, especially the Florida fans, especially me, I'm a big football guy. You've just been waiting. Okay, you've been recruiting almost top 5 in some cases. You'll have a number 7 class or number 8 class. We want to see you at least in that top 10 by the end of the season. It just hasn't panned out that way. Now with DJ Lagway coming in, you finish the season with him, on a high note. You win your 8 games. And now you're just jonesing, okay, now it's Billy Napier's time to take the next step. So regardless of whether Golden wins tonight or not, per se, I would still put Golden above that just because he's made it this far and people are still waiting for football to get on the right track.
David Soderquist joining us right here on the Fan Upstate on this Monday afternoon here in the upstate of South Carolina to talk about tonight's national championship game. David's with HighTop Sports. Make sure you give him a follow on Twitter on X at HighTopDave. When you look at tonight's matchups, we just asked our audience in the very last segment, when you heard that this was going to be the matchup, when you saw that it was Florida-Houston, what was your initial reaction? What jumped off the page to you first?
After watching that Duke game, you had a sense that Duke just had that game won. They had a 14-point lead. They've been playing the most consistent down the stretch. You never really saw a game where Duke struggled in this tournament. They play Houston. They look the same way. And then towards the end of the game, I don't know if it was a coaching thing or Duke taking the foot off the gas pedal or Houston just playing really good defense down the stretch. I don't want to take anything away from Houston as well because their D is for real. You got a sense of, oh, man, we're going to have to play Duke. That's going to be hard. I don't know if we win that one. When Houston won, and I'll even admit, I said, oh, man, it just got easier for us. And I'll even admit, I said that. But at the same time, I still have that mutual respect for Houston pulling it off against Tennessee, making just Tennessee like Tennessee didn't even know what to do against Houston and just shutting down, some of their offense. And that's what Houston does. They're a very slow-playing team. They want to break you down if you have a high-powered offense. They want to hold you to 60, 70 points a game and kind of knock down, drag out. Now, they don't have the best offense, but their defense, as I said, it's elite. It's one of the best in the nation. It is the best in the nation. And I think, the matchup between Florida with their offense and the matchup with Houston, two different styles of play here in basketball. I think it's gonna make for a good matchup here. But I do think Florida's chances from a Florida fan standpoint got a little bit easier just in terms of I didn't want to play Duke myself, but you could probably ask somebody else outside of me and they'll probably call me crazy. So well, that's just kind of how I took it. But I'm not saying Florida's going to come in here just easily mollywop Houston or anything like that. But I think you had a little bit of a sigh of relief, at least from me.
David, I hope you didn't say that publicly on social media, that this just got easier for us, because fans absolutely will blame you for the loss. That's what fans do, right?
Right. Yeah, that's what they do. Yeah.
What do you attribute in this Todd Golden era, especially this season, Florida's ability to go on long, sustained streaks of wins? Because there was a 13-game win streak early in the season, took a loss, went on a 6-game win streak. Then now you're currently on an 11-game win streak. You win tonight, it makes it 12. What is it about Coach Golden that just makes this team unflappable, even in situations where you're down? Because I think earlier we pulled a stat that Florida had come back to win down double digits 4 times this season.
I mean, if you look at it, you look down the stretch, just at Florida's schedule, they've been a very second-half team. Now, I don't know what Todd Golden does in that locker room at halftime. We heard I can't remember who it was from Barstool that said he happened to be just trying to get a drink from concessions and passed Florida's locker room during the last game to play it, and Todd Golden was just cursing them out. They were down by 8 against Auburn, and he's just cursing them out in the locker room. They come out, and they storm right back, and they tie the game right out of halftime. But I would say more of just I think the culture in that locker room's changed a little bit. I think a lot of those players are now more not I wouldn't say that they were playing selfish per se, but I would say that they're all playing for each other. They're playing more team basketball. Of course, Walter Clayton has been a madman these past 2 games, scoring over 30-plus points per game. I mean, obviously, that's the guy that everybody looks at if you're covering media-wise and says, wow, Walter Clayton's a monster. And he does, don't get me wrong. He has been clutch for the Florida Gators in a lot of these games down the stretch to where they have been able to pull it off. But you also got to tip your hat to Thomas Haw, who's made some very clutch shots at the end of these games. You also got to give Will Richard some credit. Alex Condon, he hurt his ankle a little bit. Hasn't been the same since he hurt his ankle, but he's made some clutch rebounds there as well. So I think, just putting this team together, especially in the transfer portal, a lot of people say, oh, well, these guys had no stars and, they developed a little bit through college. But, Todd Golden did his homework in the transfer portal, and I think that's what really set him apart from a lot of these teams. And I think he's just an analytical guy. He's a student of the game, and I really, really think he gets the most out of his players.
David, it's funny. Diesel and I earlier in the show talked about, the storylines thus far, I guess, in college basketball season with from the time college basketball season started to now with Janai Broome and Cooper Flagg. It seemed like those two took up most of the narratives in the college basketball season with the media. But Walter Clayton Jr. just, I don't want to say quietly, has all season long went about his business, done his thing, and all of a sudden now looks like that he may be the most trusted player, not only in the postseason, but in tonight's game. Is it just that simple for you, that the fact that Florida does have Walter Clayton Jr., a guy tonight in this matchup who has been super trustworthy thus far in the tournament, that I guess I don't want to say it gives us the easy ability or the easy pick in picking Florida, but I guess it does provide some level of comfort. Is it that easy for you as well?
Yeah, in a way. I mean, if you're a Florida fan, you can look at Walter Clayton and say, well, at least he's good for at least 20 points. Even if he has a bad game, he's good for at least 20. We watched the UConn game, and it looked like they defended Walter Clayton pretty well. It came down to the stretch. As I said, Houston plays really good defense. I am sure they're going to double Clayton. They're going to be on top of him as much as they can. But Clayton has this just ability to juke out of the way and make players think he's misdirect enough to where he can get open and quickly shoot a three. So accurate that he's really hard to stop. I think that's what sets him apart from most of the basketball players out here. But for I just don't want to say that this team's Walter Clayton. I mean, we've seen Elijah Martin step up in games. We've seen Alex Condon get us rebounds. We saw Will Richard step up. We've seen Haw step up at the end of these games. So, you don't want to necessarily pin it all on Walter Clayton, but, I mean, let's be honest. This guy's been playing like a madman down the stretch. So, I would say quietly, I guess he's kind of came I think based on the last 2 games being over 30+, I think now he's really came onto the scene. It is wild though when you think about it. The most 2 talked about players, Flagg and Broome, are not even playing in the national championship when a lot of people thought that they were.
At HighTop Dave is where you can find David Soderquist on Twitter. Make sure you go and give him a follow. What are your thoughts on the environment that Florida will be playing in tonight? As obviously a lot of Auburn and Duke fans are dumping their tickets on the secondary market. You got to think that a lot of Houston fans there in the state of Texas are going to gobble those up. But, the Florida fan base is rabid as well. How many Florida fans do you think are hopping on flights right now real quick trying to get over to San Antonio and fill up this 68,000-seat venue?
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, but if you follow Dick Delatorre, one of my buddies that covers a lot of Florida sports, part of Florida Victorious, he's been posting a lot of videos and pictures of a lot of Florida fans down there. So I'm not physically down there. I did text him earlier, and I texted a couple other people, asked them, okay, what's the atmosphere look like? What does the Florida fan turnout look like? And he said there's a ton. There was more than what he expected. Of course, like you said, it's in the heart of it's in the heart of San Antonio. The Houston ticket. There's going to be a lot of home Houston guys wanting to go to this game and gals as well. So any national championship environment is going to be pretty hostile. Usually it's a split crowd, but I guess it's kind of like a little bit of a home game and necessarily, but you're always going to play in a hostile environment, especially when it's the national championship game. There's just going to be so much pressure on both teams. So I think that's going to matter a little bit. But as far as I know, there's been a lot of Florida fans in attendance there too. We'll just have to see what it looks like when the lights come on tonight at 8:50.
David, speaking of that, as we let you go, what do you think happens tonight?
I think Florida, I think it starts out slow. Houston loves to slow play a lot of these offenses. Now, I will say Florida has played some great teams that have some great defense. They did have one of those they had a really bad game against Tennessee this year, but they have beat them twice. You rarely see Florida score 40 or 50 points per game. I think Houston's D matches up well with Florida, but I think Florida, honestly, and this isn't a bias, this isn't orange and blue glasses here. I just think Florida has too many weapons on offense, and Walter Clayton, he's a distraction as well. That opens up a lot more players under the rim, like your Elijah Martins, your Will Richards, your Alec Condon, your Thomas Haws, who's one of their best bench players right now. So, but you also got to look out for Houston. They have a lot of good players like Jawan Roberts, L.J. Cryer. They cannot let him go off this game. They have they have the best 3-point percentage in the nation, but also at the same time they don't shoot many 3-pointers as much as any other teams do. So, I think just eyeing it from a fan standpoint, I think Florida wins, and it's not, as I said, it's not orange and blue glasses, but that does not mean that Houston can force Florida to have to go without Walter Clayton or force them to do things that they don't want to do since their styles of play are so differently. And Houston can easily slow this offense down and pull this one off. We saw what they did against Duke. Nobody thought they could beat Duke. They beat them 70-67. So if Houston wins, I think they win by a couple of points. If Florida wins, I think their offense will carry them maybe 8 to 10 points in a victory.
David, great stuff, man. We appreciate you hopping on with us, and it should be a fun one. We'll do it again soon, man.
All right. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Great stuff there. David Soderquist, HighTop Sports. If you missed any of that, you can go back and check it on the free Odyssey app. That's where you can listen to the full interview, the entirety of that.
Do you think Walter Clayton Jr. does it again and goes off for 30 again?
Yeah, I think he has 30 tonight.
30. That would be
If
three
it's
30-point games in a row.
Diesel, if he doesn't have 30 tonight, I think it's really close. You know what? I'd say like 27. I think he's got to have 23, 24,
it's a
25.
great way to improve your draft stock.
Oh, I do. Like, maybe if you want me to think about it, maybe I'll go 27 instead. But initially, yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. It would. He's the bread and butter, so it'll be fun. South Carolina, the Lady Gamecocks did not have their bread and butter yesterday. A tough one. National championship on the women's side did not go in the way of the Gamecocks. Why didn't it? We'll tell you next. is good, and then there is great. That is exactly what we saw yesterday in the national championship game between South Carolina and Connecticut. A really valiant effort by South Carolina to make it there, just not competitive enough yesterday to keep that game close. Just shows how good UConn was. Obviously, we cover South Carolina, and we were hoping and pulling for the Lady Gamecocks, but the Huskies were too much. Sarah Strong, I don't know if you Tolos out there know who Sarah Strong is, but if you don't, remember that name. Wow is all I can say. You talk about somebody who is arguably right now the best player in the game, one of, and for the next couple of years will continue to be. 24 points from her last night, or yesterday rather. Paige Beckers had 17. Azzy Fudd had 24. So 3 players right there, right off the bat, 50-plus points from your starting lineup. A tough day for the Gamecocks as they got out-rebounded. The bench wasn't as good as they normally were. A lot of that in part due to the effort by the Huskies. Chloe Kitts unable to get in 10 or more. Pow only 3 points. Raven Johnson only 2. Bree Hall only 2 points. The starters for the Gamecocks, life was difficult, but what a great season for the Gamecocks. That would have been Dawn's 4th national championship. Diesel, she still has 3, but for her to be in now 5 straight Final Fours and to fall short yesterday, obviously you want to win every game, but when you go against a team in UConn who shoots 48, almost 49% from the floor, it really doesn't matter who you're playing or who they're playing. 48% is just nuts, and that's the story of the game.
I guess I and the selection committee were right, Cole, that South Carolina didn't deserve to be the number 1 overall pick. Look, 82, I'm going to say something here that's real unpopular. 82-59 in the national championship game is why I don't watch women's basketball. I don't. I don't watch. Sure, anybody can have an off night and get blown out, but I'm sorry, a 23-point differential in the national championship game when these are supposedly 2 of the best teams this season, it's not worth my time. And
what about Georgia beating TCU 65-7 national champion?
Oh my God!
In football.
Well, okay.
65-7.
Now we're talking about a different sport. You're changing the subject here.
Because
before you say it's just one game, Cole, it's not just the national championship game that's not competitive. Non-competitive in the Final Four. The national championship game, 82-59, 23-point differential. Final Four, 74-57, a 17-point win for South Carolina over Texas, by the way. Credit where credit is due. 85-51, UConn over UCLA, a 34-point differential. The average point differential of the last 3 games of the year, and these are supposedly the best teams in the game, was 24.5 points. That is not worth my time. I'm not watching it.
It just happens in every sport, though.
Well, it happens in every sport. Okay, but that doesn't change the fact that it happened here. Why am I watching this crap if we're seeing blowout after blowout after blowout
but why watch
at the
college
end
football,
of the season?
Though? Why watch college football? Georgia defeated TCU 65.
It's a moot point here. We're not talking about football. We're talking about basketball.
What I'm saying is, though, you're saying in the national championship game, blowouts are a problem with the sport.
They happen all over the time. all over the place.
TCU lost 65-7.
But I don't have to
ago.
watch teams get beat. I don't have to watch girls get their ass beat by 25 points in the tournament. You watch the entirety of the NCAA women's tournament. You see huge blowouts all over the place. What's crazy, Cole, about this is the games were better in the Sweet 16. It got less competitive as you went along, as you supposedly eliminated those teams that weren't quite good enough to make it farther and farther and farther. In the Sweet 16, 2 out of the 10 games were 10-point differential or more. In the Elite 8, 2 out of 4 games were 10-point differentials or more. In the Final Four and in the national championship game, all 3 were blowout losses. And the blowout losses were getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
I don't know. Maybe I just love sports to where it doesn't matter because blowouts happen in every sport.
Well, these are supposedly the best of the best teams, Cole, and that's a problem.
But let me ask you this,
it's a problem when the best of the best are getting beat by 25 points every night.
Didn't that happen in the best of the best this year in the college football playoff?
Yeah, but it's more exciting. It's more exciting. Men's basketball, it doesn't happen as much in men's basketball. So you're using emotion. I'm coming with fact, okay?
No, I'm not using emotion.
NCAA, hang on, Cole, stop.
You're not going to tell me I'm
tournament,
using emotion. You're not going to tell me I'm using emotion when I gave you a score.
in the men's,
I gave you a
in the
score.
women's
That's not
tournament,
emotion.
46% of the final 15 games, that's Sweet 16 on, 46% of the games are 10-point or larger blowouts.
Look,
in the men's game, 35% are blowouts, but it's a more exciting brand of basketball because you got high flying, you got dunks, you got people who can actually shoot 3-pointers without having to push the ball.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's not good basketball.
What about
it's
the
not,
Super Bowl?
And I'm not hating on South Carolina women's basketball. This is not what this is about. I'm not singling out South Carolina. I'm saying the games are non-competitive when it really matters, and I'm not going to waste my time on it.
All right, then answer me how I'm using emotion when I also gave you facts.
Because you're talking about you're going to a different sport.
That's what
you can't
what's
you can't
emotional
argue
about
and stay on point because you got beat in this argument. You can't stay on point. You can't argue to me why 25 points differential games are watchable basketball.
All right, I'm going to give you a reason of why I got beat in this argument.
Why is
2023 National Championship? Georgia defeated TCU 65-7.
Yeah, but you're talking about a different
2015
sport,
Rose Bowl.
Cole.
But you're saying
Stay on topic.
But
If you
you're
can't
saying-
stay on topic, you're wrong.
That's
If you
the
can't
dumbest.
stay on topic, you're wrong. If you have
That's
to
not
go
true.
rogue, if
That's
you have
not
to go
true.
off road, you're wrong.
Well,
Why would I
what's the
watch
stream
25 point? I don't care what they think.
Okay.
I don't care what they think.
All
I'm
right.
caring about
It doesn't
beating your
matter.
ass in this argument.
Well, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. All right, 5 o'clock. What is next? That was
Overreaction Monday. Next. 844 fan phone 844-326-3663. That is the Hub City Spartanburgers text line. Texter says the next segment of your show needs to be couples therapy. Look, just because we're passionate and getting loud at each other doesn't mean we hate each other. It's called Talking Sports. Tolos. Alan says Cole won. Another Tolo who didn't give their name says Cole won. Look, you guys can all be wrong.
I don't think
totally
anybody
fine.
said you were right, did they?
I don't care what they think. You said blowouts happen in the college football playoff. A point that I have made like a bajillion times on this show. But I define a playoff loss in college football as 21 points or more being a blowout. 21 points or more. Texas, Arizona State, not a blowout. Ohio State, Oregon, even though Oregon came back to make it not a blowout, that was kind of a blowout. That wasn't a tight game. But Notre Dame, Georgia, compelling game. Notre Dame, Penn State, compelling game. Texas, Ohio State, compelling game. National championship, not as compelling. So when, big losses happen in the college football playoff.
Every sport.
And I've argued that point about 1 million times.
So we should quit watching it.
Well, no, because we had tight, compelling games. We had tight, compelling games in the semifinals and in the quarterfinals, but we don't get that in women's college basketball. At least we didn't get that this year. Tolos, here's your chance to call in and overreact to something you saw this weekend. If you got a problem with something you saw, or if you want to gas something up, give us a call, 844-FAN-PHONE, 844-326-3663. Waiting for Mad Therapy to call in because he has a lot to say about me being wrong about these games not being compelling in the Final Four and onwards in the women's tournament. So call in. We want to hear your overreactions on this Monday. Cole, would you like to go first?
I don't have mine yet. I'm still trying to think of. I have a couple in my head that I have in queue, but no, you go first.
Okay. Here's one, and it relates to what we saw this past weekend in the championship game in the women's tournament. They need to bring the three-point line for women's basketball in by a foot. They need to bring it in by a foot. I've watched player after player after player shoot from three and look like they're having to push the ball to get it there. Not all of them. Not saying that it's all of them. But the elevation and release isn't there. They're pushing the ball forward instead of jumping and releasing the ball high. So I think the women's three-point line, which is currently 22 feet 1 3/4 inches, needs to be brought into the high school three-point line of 19 feet 9 inches, which it's not that far, right? It's actually, okay, so it's closer to about 4 inches, but they do need to bring that line in.
I don't know. It's interesting with women's basketball. You don't see them making shots at a clip like the men do. Mm-hmm. And obviously a lot of that has to do with, women just don't shoot the ball as well until you run into a team like UConn who defies all odds and wins the whole thing like what we saw yesterday and shot at a 48% clip. When you have a team like UConn or any team that can shoot the ball that well, they're going to win a lot of games. That's why they did. I don't know. I don't hate that one. I don't know that it'll make that big. What did you say? Let's be 4 inches, something like that?
Yeah, something like that. The high school dimensions, and this is for men's and women's in high school, is 19 feet 9 inches. The women's three-point line in college basketball is 22 feet 1 3/4 inches.
JD wants to overreact on the phone lines. To the phone lines we go. What's up, JD?
Well, good day, gentlemen.
What's up?
Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
Absolutely. Well, Cole, this one, I'll start off with you. I know you and I went back and forth about when South Carolina would actually lose in the tournament. Mm-hmm. And here is my question, and this is what I wanted to overreact to slightly. What in the world was Dawn Staley complaining about whenever she said that they should have been the number 1 overall seed in the tournament? Because that would have put you on the same side of the bracket as UCLA, USC, and UConn. I mean, granted, one of those teams would have swapped. But the Gamecocks wouldn't have made it as far as they did if they were the number 1 overall seed, in my opinion.
No, they
Am
wouldn't
I
have.
wrong in saying that?
They wouldn't have, but I think when she made that was at I believe that was on Selection Sunday, so I don't know if she had looked at the bracket yet. I don't know.
Was it USC or who got the number 1 overall seed? It was USC, right? Yeah.
UCLA, USC, and UConn.
UConn.
Yeah.
No, UConn's a 2.
Oh.
It was Texas.
Texas.
Was the other number
Thank
one
you.
seed. But yeah, like, I don't understand what she was complaining about. She had the easiest road to get to the national championship game. And that was partially my thinking when I was talking about the stuff that they were going to lose sooner than they did. I didn't realize how easy the Gamecocks were going to have it on that side of the bracket.
I mean, you can make an argument that the best place to be in any bracket is the fourth number one seed.
Yeah, sir. Well, especially with the women's tournament, for sure.
Sure.
And then I had one other overreaction, and it is completely escaping me at this moment. So I'll let you guys know.
It's okay. Hey,
It
well,
happens.
text it in, drop it on the stream if you remember it, JD.
Yeah, will do. Y'all be easy. Be blessed.
Thanks, man.
pal.
844-326-3663. That's the number.
Dewey texts in and says Diesel is speaking blasphemy about women's college basketball. He should be disciplined. Well, I'll take disciplined over fired any day.
Yeah, he didn't
I'll take
fire
that. Texter says 4 inches will make all the difference.
Good text. I like that. I don't know. I would have to go with Cooper Flagg on my overreaction Monday. And I hate to make it all about Cooper Flagg and hate to make it all about Duke, but man, it's just you're talking about 4 games now. Cooper Flagg's been bad. It's been not bad in terms of the entirety of the game. Bad at the end. When Cooper Flagg had a chance to make the shot to win the game, Cooper Flagg couldn't do it. And Cooper Flagg, for as good as he is, generational player, you look at 4 games where he was given the opportunity to be the closer, and he couldn't do it. Clemson, he slipped. Kansas, he missed. Kentucky, he missed. Saturday night against Houston, I don't know if that was the absolute best shot selection there. Mid-range jumper. Look, maybe he should have gotten to the rim. I think I would have liked to have seen him get to the rim there. But he missed. And he's just, my overreaction Monday is Cooper Flagg's not clutch. So for all the haters out there, use that as he starts his NBA career, because as we talked about in the very first segment of the show, his career's done. Dude, his college career's over. So that's mine, is Cooper Flagg is not clutch.
Yeah, I mean, he shoots at almost 49% from 3 until it really matters, and then he falls off. He's not existent. I can't recall, Cole, and I'm trying to search and see if I can find any instance where Cooper Flagg hit a buzzer beater shot to win the game. Not that Duke was in that many opportunities and that many tight games and opportunities for him to do so. But so we don't know how many of those he's hit, but certainly we remember the misses more than we do the hits. Overreaction Monday, Tolos. You guys are dead on this rainy, nasty day. Is the weather keeping you down? Is it holding you down? You're not picking up the phone and calling us? Well, we need you to do that. 844-FAN-PHONE, 844-326-3663. What are your thoughts on what you saw this weekend in sports?
I guess JD got his other one. He remembered it. He said on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line, my other overreaction was the media completely flipping what she said about Paige and UConn. She said all players and teams deserve equal attention. I don't know what he
was it Gino that said something about the women's players not getting equal whatever. I thought I saw something about that in the media this weekend.
Yeah,
Am I wrong? Didn't he say something about like their treatment or the facilities or something, which obviously that was a big deal a couple of years ago when they got like a 1 weight rack with nothing on it to work out ahead of the tournaments?
Yeah, I know.
Am I wrong there?
I heard audio of them talking about not having more than 2 sites for the later rounds. I don't know if that's what JD was referring to. Buckeye Mike on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line says Flagg is no better than Leitner. Is that what you mean there, Buckeye Mike, that Flagg's no better than Christian Leitner? That's the thing.
They had that chance. There was that long baseball pass throw that looked like it could have been another Leitner-style shot that they ultimately missed there at the very end of the game. So that's probably what he's referring to. But, yeah, I mean, Cooper's not hitting the clutch shots.
Back on the phone lines, Bryant wants to give his overreaction on this Overreaction Monday. What's up, Bryant?
Oh, I didn't know it was an overreaction. I was just listening, but I just wanted to say that, Gino Auriemma and Connecticut, they hadn't been there in 10 years, and Don Staley set the standard. So in order to get back there again, he knew he had to put together a team that would compete and beat South Carolina, and he did it. I mean, he did it convincingly. I mean, they beat them twice this year, and they blew them out. No contest. So, congrats to Connecticut. I mean, I love South Carolina and what they do, but, this year Connecticut was just the best team.
They were stacked. I don't know that any good team in past years would have been able to beat them, Brian. It was as good as you get, and like I said, when you can shoot the ball like they did, Gino, he's always going to be there. And every few years, he's won 10+ national championships now, and I think he won his first in 1995.
Yeah, I think that's number 12.
Right,
that's the first one in 10 years. But again, like I said, South Carolina has kind of dominated that landscape,
sure.
And in order to beat her, he had to get together, and then you had Paige Beckers came back, and then Fudd, she was injured, she came back, they veterans, so, he had the right pieces, but then next year is another year.
What do you think about the Gamecocks next year, Brian?
Oh, they're going to be tough.
Yeah,
they're going to be tough, man. I mean, continue. I mean,
they're
she's
young.
Proven.
They're young this year.
They're young. She's proven every year that she's there, regardless of what's going on. She's there. So Joyce Edwards will be better. The young lady that got hurt, she will be back. So they'll be in good shape.
I think Joyce Edwards is the one for me, man, where I look at and think if she can go to full potential, I think she can really grow into something special.
Appreciate the phone call, Brian. He's a busy guy, man. He's fielding phone calls on multiple phones. Look, Gino Auriemma, 71 years old, Cole, he could have easily rested on his laurels, sort of faded out of existence and faded out of relevance in the sport. But he's not. He's not fading out, to take a guy who's that old, who's got titles, who could rest on his laurels, to keep constructing teams like this, even at this age. It's impressive.
Yeah, they've been so good consistently for so long. And like I said, I don't want to be incorrect, but I think it was 1995 he won his first, and 12 in 20 years. I mean, or almost 30 years now, rather. I mean, that's unbelievable. I think next year will be his 30th. I don't know if he'll retire after this year, but he's certainly at the top of the sport right there with Don for sure.
We got a texter here that says, my overreaction is that Diesel doesn't like any sports. That is untrue, texter. I love badminton. Like, have you ever watched the Savannah Swingers, the Swatters? They're good, man. They're good. Tolo's texting in, says, overreaction, the Spartanburgers will win more games than the Drive and immediately establish itself as the premier minor league team in the upstate of South Carolina.
How about that?
Interesting. They won their opening series 2-1.
They did. It'd be interesting to see. Then it won't take long for us to find out who the superior team is. With that, I believe 2 weeks from this Thursday,
15th, like if I'm not wrong.
No, I think it's the week after.
Is it the week after? So it'll be 22nd.
I think it's the day of the draft. Okay. I think it's the day of the draft.
You're right. It's the 22nd.
Robert wants to chime in and get his overreaction in on this Overreaction Monday. What's up, Robert?
Yeah, I'm pissed. The sport of turkey hunting is dead in the upstate of South Carolina. Not a single person in my hunt club got a turkey this weekend since the start of turkey season. And I don't know if we can talk about turkey hunting, but it's a sport. And I'm pissed because there's too many people, Yankees and Westerners, moving to the upstate, and we're tearing up all the habitat, and we got no turkeys left.
Robert, I am also a hunter, so I'm right in the boat with you. You sound a lot like Dewey, first of all. Second of all, I will tell you this. I think turkeys are on the verge of becoming extinct in the upstate.
Well, I am glad that I sound like Dewey because I was trying to.
Okay, good. You sounded just like him.
And, Robert,
Right.
it never fails, though, when you're driving down the highway, you see a pack of 5 or 6 of them, right?
Flock, not pack.
A flock. Sorry, you see a flock of turkeys on the side of the road, but I guess when you got a rifle in your hand, gun in your hand, you can't hit it. You can't find them.
Where you can't hunt them.
Appreciate
Thanks,
you, Robert.
Robert.
Thanks for the phone call there. Let's see. Texter says, I'm sure Diesel loves watching the Swingers. What is that supposed to mean, texter? Another texter asks, is this Dewey? I messaged you and said, is this Dewey?
Sounded just like
JD says, is Robert actually Dewey?
It sounded like him.
Wow.
Dewey the turkey hunter. How about that? Madcraft, Mad Therapy, whatever he goes by today, wants to get his overreaction in on Overreaction Monday. What's up, Matt?
Yeah, Cole, I just want to apologize to you. I don't know what happened to you in that last segment. That was crazy.
I know. It was wild, right?
I know. That was wild. That's crazy.
What's your name?
No, in all seriousness, I completely agree
What's
with
your name?
Diesel.
What?
Well, no, I agree with him on his principles. I was just saying that you can't go, no, I don't care if you guys disagree with me. I'm right. That's not a good way to argue.
Wow.
But anyways, no, my overreaction call is actually, if you remember when I called, believe it was Friday.
Yeah.
And we were talking about how the Final Four teams, how they were constructed. And remember, I told you that one of them, specifically Duke, kind of built that, a lot of young guys straight out of high school, top prospects,
Mm-hmm.
And then we were talking about, well, there's that risk factor in it,
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, if that risk factor didn't show its ugly face at a time when they just did not need it, when those young guys just did not play up to par, that's kind of that risk that we were talking about.
And you have to have those, to our conversation Friday, those 17, 18, 19-year-olds, a lot of pressure on them, obviously, and literally the pressure that Houston put on them defensively. Again, no disrespect to Cooper Flagg. He's fantastic, one of the best to ever play at Duke and wear that uniform, but he has not shown in 1 year of basketball that we've watched that he is clutch.
Yeah, exactly. So, that was we always knew, when you build a roster that way, that kind of goes back to my point on Dabo was, Dabo was trying to build the traditional style of roster. And we know there's just risk involved with it. And obviously Clemson hasn't done that. And we just saw what happens with Duke. But anyways, I appreciate y'all taking my call.
Thank you, man. Oop, sorry, cut him off a split second too early. Let's go to the phone lines. Last one we have time for, though, Tolos. We'll let you message in at any time if you got something to say. Let's go to Rick in Greer, taking over the show and overreacting on a Monday. What you got, Rick?
I'm not overreacting today. I want to know where y'all going to be Wednesday. I'm off, and I want to see y'all in person.
Travelers Rest. Gear Highway in Travelers Rest.
I don't know if I'm allowed up there anymore.
Yeah, your sugar tit's a little too close to TR, right?
City ordinances, huh?
No. I had a little bit of trouble with the TR police, but
Imagine that.
I'll try to make it. So y'all going to be up there from 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock?
Diesel will be 3 to
7
is the show time every day. Diesel will be. I will be here, Rick, due to a shortage in producers. Unless you want to apply for a part-time producer job here at Odyssey, how about that?
How about if I do the announcing and you do the producing?
It'd be better. It'd be better.
How about that?
I like it.
But I'll see Diesel. I'm gonna bring him some Krispy Kreme donuts.
There you go.
Right. He'll have to give you
Well, you don't need to bring donuts. They sell donuts.
That's right.
In the bakery at Ingles Markets.
Oh, I forgot. I did. I've got y'all some before.
That's right.
I'll just get them there.
That's
easier.
Thank you,
Thank
Rick.
you.
See you Wednesday, Rick. So are you saying that my reaction to the last 3 games of the women's tournament is an overreaction itself?
Oh, no, I just think it's dumb. I just think it's dumb. I don't think it's an overreaction. I just think it's a dumb reaction.
If you like 25-point blowouts, knock yourself out.
Every sport has them. Is all I'm saying. Madcraft. I mean, again, I'm still taking the win on that one. The Tolo spoke. Dewey did confirm that it was not him on the text line, so that's good news. Tolos, we need your interaction to continue, though, in the very next segment. We need your official predictions for tonight's game, who wins, what the score is, and the winner tomorrow, it's a big prize you get, a big pot of nothing. But you'll get bragging rights. Maybe call in, tell us you were right, we were wrong, we don't know what we're talking about. Text line, Hub City Spartanburgers text line, 844-326-3663. Go ahead and start getting those texts in with the score prediction tonight. Florida, Houston, who wins and what's the score? Phone lines will also be open. We need to hear from you and why. Put a Y in there. That's next. Tolos, do you not want bragging rights? Do you not want to be able to say, I told you so? Because if you do, you need to get your predictions in. T-Experience on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line didn't wait until the segment started. He understood the assignment, got it done during the break. Very simple as we begin this this next segment. What's your prediction? What happens tonight? What's the score? Who wins? Tell us who wins. Tell us the score. And if you want brownie points, tell us why you think the winning team is going to win the game. Florida wins because, Houston wins because. The text line, the Hub City Spartanburgers text line, get out your phones right now and text away at 844-326-3663. The phone line's also open again in this segment, 844-FAN-PHONE. One number does it all, text or call the same number. And TX Experience leading off. He says, did he give two?
Is that illegal?
He says Gators 86-77 or Gators 67-54. That is a big difference there, TX Experience. I don't know. I mean, one's high scoring, one's low. I don't know if that's allowed or not.
Do we really think that Florida's going to hold Houston to 54 points?
No, I don't think so.
No, no chance.
I say that, and it'll happen, right? So let's get those score predictions in. JB, play-by-play JB, did text me and asked the question, Diesel, Cole, wire-to-wire bracket challenge, how many points does the champion right pick get? So whoever, what he's asking is, whoever picks the championship team right, how many do they get? JB, play-by-play, JB says, I'm 100 points ahead of the guy who has Houston winning. So I don't know. Let me see if I can do some quick research in terms of, because you did say it was like a tier setup.
Yeah.
Points you get for picking the right national champion, right? That would be the question.
Yes, that's the good question. So you got Buckeye Mike, who has 1,340 points. Play-by-play JB has 1,420. So he is 80 points up.
It says
on Buckeye Mike.
Again, this is the AI on Google. AI overview says, in the ESPN bracket challenge, picking the correct national champion earns you 32 points. It seems like a lot. I don't know if that's right, but it says 32. Is that don't sound right to me? 32 points for hitting the national champion, right? I don't know. Maybe it could be. So, JB, good question. Hopefully you are victorious tonight. You had, let's see. Let me pull it back up here.
So I've got the bracket up now.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at who am I? I think I'm looking at play-by-play JB's bracket, but it's the same for everybody here. A first round win was worth 10 points.
Okay.
Second round win was worth 20 points. Third round, Sweet 16.
See, that's why I said that 32
40.
didn't sound right.
Elite 8 was worth 80 points. Let me get to the quarterfinal games were worth 160 points. So you would it would stand to logic that it would be, north of that, 200, 250 points. I'm not sure exactly how they're awarding points, because it was a jump, right, from 10 to 20 to 40 to 80 to 160. So
that's weird.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm guessing it's probably worth 200 points. So this is kind of the winner-take-all scenario.
It is,
here.
and if you pick Florida, I mean, as long as you're right now in the top 15 and you pick Florida, I think you'll probably – okay, let's say this. Let's say right now you're in the top 15 to 20 in the bracket challenge, and Florida wins tonight, which I think they will. You should be, Diesel, skipping 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Tolos or paramedic elitists, whatever they call themselves in the morning. You should skip ahead of like 6 or 7 different players who picked Duke, who picked Houston, who picked Auburn. I don't know. Like you said, only three in the top 15 picked Houston.
Yeah, because the Armada captain picked Duke. He's sitting at 8.
Yeah.
12 and 2 players tied for 13 also have Duke. And then you got to go 3 players tied for 22nd and a player in 30th with Duke. There's a lot of Florida Gator picks in here. So if you picked Florida, you're probably not going to jump any other Tolos who picked Florida. Or you're definitely not going to jump anybody else. But if you picked Houston, you could definitely jump a lot of Florida pickers.
Are you Tolos not going to watch tonight? Because you've been slack with your predictions. You've been slack. What are your predictions? What's the score going to be? What's going to happen? For those of you who don't interact with the show, interact at 844-FAN-PHONE. That's FONE. You've got to get your predictions in right here. Let's give ours. Well, we're going to save it for later, but let's go ahead and give ours in terms of what happens tonight, Diesel, who wins. We picked the same team. You and I both did to begin the tournament. But who wins and what's the score? You want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. I don't think we see a super tight defensive struggle. I also don't see, both of these teams scoring up in the 90s. Certainly think that the winner is, which I do predict is going to be Florida, probably scores 80 points. What they can do against Houston remains to be seen. I think final score, Duke 80, Houston 72.
Okay.
And I think that probably is only a result of free throws down the stretch. Houston was able to use their maturity to beat a young Duke. Well, that's not really going to help them as much against Florida because they've got an older, more mature team. They also have Clayton Jr. And Florida has just been really consistent offensively. Houston's defense is fantastic. But is it good enough to take a team that's that consistent, that has been playing good defenses in the SEC all season long, and just completely knock them off their game? I don't give them that much credit.
Mike Main says points double after each round. Okay. Again, what I read on Google, I knew that wasn't right because I knew it had to be more. JB, play-by-play JB says, I'll say Florida 74, Houston 70. Texter says Cole hammering the keyboard again. You mean like this? Does that drive you nuts? Is that like chalk on or a fingernail on a blackboard? Listening to somebody eat with their or chew with them. I'm gonna go 75-66. Florida wins tonight. That's my official score prediction. 75-66. Florida on top, and that would be a total of quick math here. 141. 141 points. And what did I say the over-under was?
I think you said it was 140
and a half.
Wowza.
So
so I think we've got two really evenly matched teams here. How much, if any, stock do you put in? Number one, the crowd probably going to be a heavily Houston-favored crowd. Also, on top of that, the amount of energy that Houston had to expend, emotional energy and physical energy, to get past Duke. There was a stat, not that they won it on a last-second buzzer beater shot, but there was a stat I pulled a week ago, I think, or 2 weeks ago, that in the NCAA tournament, teams that win on buzzer beater shots only go on to win the next game like 1 out of 7 times.
I would say more of the latter in terms of not necessarily saying they shot their wad, but they did have to use so much. They had to use so much energy down the stretch. They had to use so much effort down the stretch to get that win over Duke. And look, you got to give them a lot of credit. It was a great win. But at the end of the day, I think, again, going back to what we said in the very first segment, your best player on the team a lot of times needs to be your player that can make the most clutch shots. I think Florida has that. The Gators, even though they haven't been in the tournament or in the national championship in a long time, I look at this as just a very experienced team. They just look very experienced, very veteran-led, never get too high, never get too low. So I think there is a lot to be said, though, about Houston having to do so much in that last, 8 to 10 minutes against Duke. I like Florida tonight. I also think Florida has the best player with Walter Clayton Jr. Houston's defense is going to be a problem. There's no doubt about that. We all know that their defense is legit. Kelvin Sampson's, he's legit. He knows how to prepare. He knows how to win games. Quick turnaround, though, Diesel. In these type of games, you're not getting a ton of time to practice and prep. You played Saturday, you get Sunday, and then next thing you know, you wake up Monday and it's game day. So it's not like Kelvin Sampson's getting a week to prepare like he did for Duke. Remember, he did get a week to prepare for Duke. He didn't get a week to prepare for Florida. And I think because of that and a lot of other reasons that I just mentioned, I think Florida wins tonight. Mike Main on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line says 80-68 Florida, all because of Walter Clayton Jr., also MVP. Yeah, I could see that. Wouldn't be much of a surprise there for me if he was, or whatever they call it. I don't know what they call it anymore. But I do think he'll be the best player on the floor tonight. Will he go for 30 like you asked me a few minutes ago? I think he'll go close to it.
So where is Walter Clayton Jr.? I know this is talking about this early. A lot of people look at him as the third best player in college basketball this year. I mean, do you see him as a lottery pick even before this game happens? Do you think he has the potential to jump? He's not going to jump Cooper Flagg. But
no.
Janai Broom?
Well, I think tonight could go a long way. I mean, you think about
if he goes off for 30, 35 again and is heroic, is he improving his NBA draft stock?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he's getting a lot of comparisons to a lot of really good people. I tell you what, I really liked Stephen A. Smith's comparison this morning, comparing him to Wade Cunningham, who used to play for Detroit and was as good of a guard in the league at that time. He's a great college basketball player. Is he a Cade Cunningham? I don't know. He's a three-point bomber, right? Like it's going to be interesting. I think he absolutely does have the ability to translate his game into the NBA. I just don't know how good he'll be in terms of where he lands. Situation matters, right?
Yeah, I just looked up the mock draft. This is on Bleacher Report, and he's projected as a first-round guy, but a lower-end first-round guy. They've got him mocked at 26th to the Nets. So the question is, of teams who need point guards and shooting guards, and I'm just quickly scrolling, like all these guys are hybrid guys now, right? So nobody's listed as just a point guard or just a forward. They've got Dylan Harper going to Rutgers. He's not going to Dylan Harper going to the Wizards. He's not going to jump him. He's not going to jump that high, but you got Jeremiah Fears from Oklahoma, mocked at 6. Of the other point guard, shooting guards, you got Kasparis, don't know his last name, from Illinois at 11. So he would have to jump a whole lot of guys to get himself even into the top 10 pick conversation.
Florida, by the way, is a 1.5-point favorite tonight, according to Vegas. Again, the over-under set at 140.5. Very close in terms of the odds and what Vegas predicts. They're predicting a close game as Florida, again, just barely favored. I like Florida tonight to win and cover.
Daily Wires next. Tolo, it's going to take some time to put your message together because it came in like 10 different parts. So we'll try to do that in the next break. But let's hit our daily wires. This is the buzz happening around the sports world. Clemson baseball playing real well is now a 30-win team after they swept the Cal Golden Bears over the weekend, 9-3 in conference play. Just got it rolling down there. South Carolina, on the other hand, has lost 2 of 3 over the weekend to Mississippi State, who was another bad baseball team. South Carolina now 19-14 on the season, 2-10 in SEC play.
Yeah, both programs just going in total opposite directions right now. Clemson buzzing, going out to Cal and getting not only a series win, which is what I thought they would do, but to get a sweep on the West Coast. That's impressive. And then South Carolina going against Mississippi State, who's also not good. Shut out on Sunday, 6-0. They just don't look like a motivated baseball team right now. We thought it might get better, a little bit better under Paul Maneri, but it hasn't.
North Greenville also buzzing cold. They swept Mount Olive over the weekend, 32-8 on the season, 17-7 in conference play.
Yeah, that's the first time Landon Powell, one of his teams, has gone to Mount Olive and gotten a sweep. They're incredibly difficult to beat at their place. They're national champion, powerhouse in D2, and that was a big-time win for Landon Powell this weekend.
Yeah, we had a conversation with Landon last week. If you want to go back and hear that, you can do it on the free Odyssey app. Washington Capitals star Alex Ovechkin scored goal number 895 of his career on Sunday. That puts him now 1 goal past Hall of Famer Wayne Gretzky to become the NHL's all-time goal-scoring leader. On the other side of that, Cole, this is hilarious. Budweiser Zero has sent out special celebratory Bud Zero cans to each of the 895 goalies who ever defended a shot against Alex Ovechkin and did not let him score.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
They sent it. It's like it's in a box, about half the size of a shoebox.
Yeah.
It's white. It's got, whatever it says on the outside. You open it up. There's a special Bud Zero can on the inside.
Nice.
On the other hand, Cole, it's Budweiser has had a hard time sending out specialty cans before. So this time, I think they got it right. Florida is a 1.5-point favorite tonight in the national championship game against Houston. The city of Greenville and the Greenville Drive are working to restore an historic baseball field in town. Mayberry Park was once the home of the Greenville Spinners, an all-black baseball team in the 1920s. It was originally, Mayberry Park was originally created as a space for African-American children to play during a time when they were not allowed in segregated parks. The Greenville Drive made a generous donation to the city and is rebuilding Mayberry Park, the ribbon cutting set for August 28th. In case you missed it, and I wasn't here on Friday, Cole, you might have mentioned this. UT Chattanooga out of the Southern Conference won the NIT with an 85-84 win in overtime. Did you mention that?
I think so. With Chattanooga being obviously from the SoCon, I think Lane Fowler and I had Lane on the show, who's the basketball coach at Burns, and I think we did talk a little bit about it. Not in depth. It's NIT, but I think I mentioned it.
Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has signed a brand new, massive 14-year, $500 million extension with the Toronto Blue Jays, making it the third largest contract in MLB history. Compared to what the Dodgers do, this is a very different deal. The deal has no deferrals and is contingent on Guerrero passing a physical. The star slugger, who has made 4 straight All-Star games and led the AL in home runs in 2021, will now likely spend his entire career with the Blue Jays. There was some hemming and hawing back and forth as to whether or not he may go to another team. MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred has thrown his support behind torpedo bats, calling them, quote, absolutely good for baseball. So those of you purists who don't like the torpedo bats, I don't think they're going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah, I think I'm settled in. I think I like them. I want them across the league. Let's everybody use them and see what they do.
And, a lot of players are using the torpedo bats, but they're not finding success with it.
Yeah.
Those who are hitting the bat well, Like out of the gate, they're hitting well, and they are probably not going to look back until Major League Baseball forces them. And it doesn't appear from Rob Manfred's quotes that they're going to do anything about it. So I think they're here to stay, at least for a while. And finally, Cole, congratulations to Coach Chad Comer, manager Chad Comer, and the Hub City Spartanburgers. They got a series win in their inaugural series, 2-1 against Aberdeen. They won 4-3 on Friday, 7-5 on Sunday. They will now start a 6-game series at Wilmington tomorrow and will make their home debut against Bowling Green on Tuesday, April 15th.
And you know what? To add one more into the Daily Wire's good news today, the Braves won't lose today. And the Braves didn't lose yesterday because it got rained out. So
Are they still over?
No, they won.
Oh, how about that?
Yeah, they won over the weekend. So, look, 2 days in a row, we don't have to worry about a Braves loss. That's good news. But we have a ton of audio to get to from over the weekend. College basketball, women's basketball, maybe a little baseball as well. I got a lot of audio to bring your way, and a good old-fashioned audio sports blitz from the weekend. Did we decipher? Were we able to decipher all of that?
There's like 6 text messages here. He doesn't like my take about women's basketball.
How many women's basketball? Let's see, are they in order? How many have you watched? If I had to assume,
the Final Four was disappointing.
I don't know why they do that with all those texts broken up like that.
It's hard with long text messages, guys, and it's. Whenever people send us long text messages, it gets broken up, and sometimes they get scrambled into different orders.
Rob Brown show take. Texter, that's my favorite text of the day. Favorite text of the day so far.
I mean, he does agree here that the games have not been entertaining.
I don't think.
Why would I waste my time with something that's not entertaining?
I don't think. I'm going to give you the win on that one. I think I won that one. Audio blitz from the weekend next. Tolos. Final hour for you to get your thoughts in on what happened over the weekend. I'm Cole Bryson. He's Diesel. This is Wire to Wire right here on the Fan Upstate. A little audio blitz for you on this Monday. A lot of audio from over the weekend. Some Dawn Staley, some Michael Jordan, some Bryson DeChambeau, a little Cooper Flagg, Kelvin Sampson. A good mix on this Monday. This, man, it's a dreary Monday. It's rainy, cloudy. It's dark almost already at 6 o'clock. Not a fan. Supposed to get cold tomorrow night. I want to go back to the 80s in the sunshine. That's where I want to go back to. Let's start with a little Cooper Flagg, though, after the loss on Saturday night.
Can you just talk about, not obviously the very last possession, but the possession before that? You get the ball, you go into the post. Is that the shot you were looking for? Is that the look you wanted in that spot?
Yeah, I mean, this is the play. Coached you up, took it into the paint. Thought I got my feet set, rose up, left it short, obviously, but I mean, it's a shot I'm willing to live with in the scenario. Pulling up on the rim, trust the work that I put in.
So Cooper Flagg, Diesel obviously sounds a little down, a little out, a little subdued, right, after the loss. I didn't think it was the best shot selection. I would have liked to have seen Cooper get to the rim for a higher percentage look. Look, he's like 10 foot tall almost, so I get it. A pull-up, mid-range, he should be able to knock it down. However, in that situation, I just would have liked it to be a little higher percentage of a shot.
Yeah, I mean, he was shooting it from the corner, so it's not like he was like throwing up some crazy distance three. It was kind of a turnaround fadeaway jumper. It's not a super high percentage shot, but I guess, when you're Cooper Flagg, you have such a high belief in yourself that you think any shot is going to fall. And he has been exceptional. Very good chance he wins National Player of the Year. So, Cooper Flagg has probably hit that shot a whole bunch and feels like he could have put that one in. Was it contested? Yes. Was it potentially rushed a little bit? Yes. But in the final seconds of a game, every shot is contested and rushed.
Yeah, it was tough. Here's Kelvin Sampson, though, after the game.
If you win, you'll be the oldest national championship coach ever. Does that mean anything to you? Would that mean anything to you, particularly at an age where with modern basketball, there's some question about how long guys are going to stay in this profession?
It's probably a good question. When you're pressing 70, you look at things a lot differently. You're grown up now. You're 70. I spent a little time this morning with my grandkids. First time I went to the Final Four in 2002, my son was on the team, or he's on the bench with us. So over the years, things kind of come full circle in some ways. Last night I got so many texts from, I haven't returned any. There's too many to even look. I didn't even get through all of them, but I saw Tubby and Rick Barnes and Tom Izzo and Pop and a bunch of the older coaches, and they all kind of had similar messages to me. Win one for the old guys or something like that.
He is. He's getting up there, and for him to be able to do that tonight, it would be pretty historic. It would be historic. Here's another one, Diesel, about the legacy of Cooper Flagg.
Duke had a great season.
Yeah.
But it was a great season with a rough...
By the way, this is Gary Parrish.
And the toughest part about it, I think, would be that you never get this back.
Yes.
This isn't the NBA or the NFL where you can lose a game and say, okay, we're coming back with our same core and we'll try to do it again. How many times did the Boston Celtics theoretically fall short with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown? But we get another shot.
Yep.
We get another shot.
Yep.
We get another shot. And you can break through eventually. This is it for this team. In college basketball, you typically, with few exceptions, are going to have one shot with one team. And John had a team that was good enough to do this undeniably, and you could see it on his face. You could hear it in his voice. He knows that they let one slip away, but I should be clear. This will not be the last time he talks to Tracy Wolfson at Final Four. They will have another conversation after a national semifinal, and I bet you it'll be a happier conversation.
I think that's what makes it so tough is, you do. He's right. Gary's right. You get one shot with one team. It's not the NBA. It's not the NFL. You don't have guys on contracts for 3 to 4, 5, 6 years. You've got one shot with one team, and you've got to play your best when it matters. I think that's what makes this tournament the best tournament there is.
Yeah, it's you get to see stars emerge. You get to see, long-standing coaches finally get their due. Kelvin Sampson is going to have himself, he's going to put himself in a higher caliber of coaches. I think everybody already believes him to be an elite level coach. You go and you get that one, and then all of a sudden you're now put on a pedestal. I mean, he's great.
He also had some comments about Duke right after the win. This was pretty good.
Over and you said, heck of a game, 11-1 run to end this. How would you describe the resiliency of your team down the stretch there?
No one ever loses at anything as long as you don't quit. Now, when you quit, then I don't care if you've lost. Our thing in our timeouts tonight, we've been here before. It's not like we were down 20. It's not like we were playing great. We felt like if we could get it close enough to put some game pressure on them, then something good could happen. But all the credit, all the glory goes to God, and all the credit goes to these unbelievable young men I get to coach. I'm so blessed I get to coach these kids.
You talk about these kids. You've talked all season long about the experience factor. A guy like this, Juwan, what they did down the stretch, how lucky is it to have these guys on your team in these moments?
Well, it's lucky to have them, but it's not lucky that they do what they do, because that's work. They trust their work. They trust their teammates. I hear what people say. Duke this, Duke that. Duke's great. John Shire is awesome, but don't sleep on Houston. Don't sleep on Houston. We weren't 34-4 playing in the Toy Poodle League. We were 19-1 in the Big 12. Playing in the Big 12 helped us. Shout out to my Big 12 brethren, Coach Brett Yormark, and all the great coaches in the Big 12.
Who would have thought the ACC would now be referred to as the Toy Poodle League? I mean, is that bad that we're there? I mean, he's not wrong this year. He's not wrong.
Yeah.
It was bad. It wasn't competitive, Diesel, in regards to what it used to be, but Kelvin Sampson calling the ACC the Toy Poodle League.
Iron sharpens iron, and I appreciate a coach making a point to bring that up, shouting out the job that the Big 12 did to improve themselves as a basketball conference.
Yeah, they were good.
And it paints the ACC in a corner when you think of it as a basketball league and as a football league. As you're so top. But yeah, you got one or two good teams in each sport in the conference. But outside of that, you got no depth, and you don't have iron sharpening iron. You got one team with all the talent looking so much better because nobody else has any.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. But you know what? I love when coaches are when they just say what they think, what they feel. Don't sugarcoat it. It's what I'm saying. You know what's this week, don't you, Diesel? The Masters. The Masters this week. Bryson DeChambeau was asked what his favorite part about the Augusta or about the Masters was playing in Augusta. Here's what he had to say.
Bryson, just curious, what do you most look forward to about Masters Week? Doesn't have to be the golf, it could be anything. What do you get excited for?
I honestly love the atmosphere. It's one of the most peaceful places. My favorite moment is when the sun's kind of setting and everybody's kind of gotten off the golf course and you're just hitting golf balls by yourself, or a couple other pros are out there hitting golf balls and you see the sun setting, the sun going down. It's like heaven. And that's what I look forward to a lot coming into next week. Other than playing well and giving myself a chance, I really enjoy those moments after the round, practicing hard into the night.
He'll enjoy those rounds, Diesel, if he's in contention. If he's out there hitting balls late at night and he's not in contention, I don't know how much he'll be enjoying those sunsets at Augusta.
I've been slack so far this year getting out and playing golf. I haven't played around yet. Though I mean, I've been to driving ranges and such. Those of you who play a lot of golf, are you noticing that right now is like New Year's for people going to the gym? Like, are people all of a sudden going out and playing more golf right now?
I bet so.
Because it's the Masters. It's the first major of the year.
I bet maybe even more so next week after the Masters. I think it would be. I think that's probably pretty accurate with the golf. Yeah, heck, I might go out. No, I'm kidding. I'm not. Dawn Staley after the loss yesterday. Here's some audio from her.
Younger players are just gonna have to step up. They gotta have a great summer. They gotta have a great fall. We're always gonna play a competitive schedule, so they'll have opportunities to grow in playing a competitive schedule. But I'm as excited for what our team will look like next year. I am, because I do think it'll be talented enough to get here, especially with getting in the transfer portal and getting some experienced pieces that can help with this young group.
That's one thing. Like Gino, we know where he is in his career, maybe close to retirement. Diesel, but Dawn, they're still in the thick of things. She said it. They're probably going to be back there next year, at least in the Elite Eight, Final Four. They've got a ton of young players, and let her add a couple of players in the portal. I mean, she's in her prime as Gino. I guess that's the good thing if you're a Gamecock fan to look forward to.
It's going to be interesting to see the next crop of elite coaches that step up. I mean, a lot of people are high on Kim Caldwell at Tennessee and Kenny Brooks at Kentucky. As Gino, eventually retires, and I mean, let's be real.
I think he retires this year.
Really?
Why not, man?
Kim Mulkey, she's I don't think she's not going to retire, in the next couple of years, but she's probably not got ton of years left.
She's probably closer than she is.
Yeah.
Closer to it than
Yeah, I mean,
a few years. Yeah.
So Dawn will become the elder stateswoman. And not to say Dawn's old, but she'll be the oldest of the elite level coaches.
Yeah.
When Gino retires,
I just wouldn't be surprised if he hung it up. I just
go off in the sunset on a
why
win.
Why not, man? You're never gonna get another Paige Beckers. Sarah Strong's so good. Maybe she keeps him around. Maybe. And by the way, here's what Dawn. I was so impressed with Sarah Strong yesterday. She just blew my mind of how good she was. Here was Dawn's assessment of Sarah Strong.
Sarah is Sarah. I might say this. She might be in the next 3 years. She might be the best player to come out of UConn, and that's those strong words. I know Stewie won 4, right? But what she's able to do, stay calm. The IQ is off the charts, the skill set off the charts. Big play after big play after big play, and such a great compliment, to already skilled UConn team. Like I think she's the piece that puts it all together. She makes it all work.
She does. She's so good. And she's going to be, to her point, she's going to be tough. Here's Michael Jordan. I love hearing from Michael. It's been a while since, I don't want to say it's been a while. He doesn't do a lot of interviews anymore, Diesel. And now
I wish he did.
I know. I wish he would too. Now that he's a NASCAR owner, he does a lot of NASCAR interviews. Yesterday, his team did pretty good yesterday. Denny Hamlin, not one of his drivers, but his business partner, got the win. Here was Michael after the race yesterday.
And your co-owner got back to victory lane last week, Denny Hamlin.
Against the world? Yeah.
What'd you think of that?
He is a clown. But that's him. That's Denny. He's a very confident driver. He's a very confident person. His competitive juice is no different than mine. I mean, I love that he's gotten back to winning. And, I want him to win a championship so badly because I think he's earned that, because of what he's done for the sport for so long. And he's gonna grind it out. That's just the way Denny is, and it's if you boo him, that makes him better. You boo me, that makes me better. I mean, that's just the nature of a good competitor. So I'm very happy for his win last week. Don't be surprised if he don't win today.
And he was right. He ended up winning today. So he was talking about the win last week at Martinsville. Then he comes back. I love Michael's competitiveness coming out in a sport like NASCAR. He didn't grow up with it, Diesel. It wasn't something he was familiar with. But you can't take the competitor out of somebody. And now all of a sudden he's got a NASCAR team. He's got 2 good drivers. He's got a great business partner, co-owner, and who wins a ton of races. He seems like he's just happy in life. Seems like he's just content where he is.
I wonder what the conversations are like between him and his drivers. Like, how do they bridge that gap other than, hey, we're both competitors, right? Like, how do they have high-level conversations about basketball and vice versa about NASCAR? How does Michael take the lessons that he learned from being a great basketball player and use that to essentially coach and motivate his drivers?
And he's just such a good, he seems like he's just such a good boss as well in terms of, Tyler and Bubba and then working alongside Denny. I don't know. I love hearing from him.
Do you think the pressure is off because it's not basketball? Like, we didn't hear from him a ton as the Bobcats owner. And maybe there was a little extra pressure on him.
I think it's
to
fun
make his franchise good in basketball.
I think it's a fun hobby for him where he has a lot of money invested and a lot of money at risk.
Yeah.
I think he just has fun. Here's how that ending sounded yesterday, by the way.
For second place, but Denny Hamlin is long gone at the white flag.
Well, Denny Hamlin, they executed that pit stop really well, and now he's been able to take advantage of that with these guys racing behind him and just get a lead that is going to take him to the checkered flag.
Unbelievable. Blaney under fire from Chris Buescher, may lose fifth before this is over. They are double file. Up front, it's single file. There's a crash off turn 2. Never mind. Denny Hamlin comes off turn number 4 and doubles up. Hamlin wins the Goodyear 400.
For the second week in a row, Hamlin just walked the dog in terms of the lead that he had on the second place driver. I mean, it wasn't even close. He's driving really well right now. I mean, he always been a great driver, but man, these last 2 weeks he's been on fire. And then lastly, Diesel, some changes to the NFL kickoff rules. Pat McAfee explains.
Kickoff will now go to the 35 after a touchback, which is good. Kickers also are allowed to bring their own balls into the games, which is awesome. Look for punters to hit massive balls. This is going to benefit the punters greatly and obviously kickers as well.
So nothing massive, right? A few minor adjustments.
So the ball comes out to the 35 now. I'm not sure I'm following Pat's logic here, and help me out here, because it seems like it makes it more punitive to kick a touchback because now the ball's coming out to the 35 instead of the 30. Isn't that bad for kickers? Am I just not understanding what Pat's saying here?
Maybe so. I don't know how I've almost just dismissed the whole kickoff now. Like it doesn't even exist because I just don't like it. I mean, I know it's good for player safety, but I'm just not a fan of it. But we'll see. I mean, I think, you know what I do like, though? I like that it continues to evolve, and the NFL's, willing to evolve it year over year.
I think it's great for the kickers who are really good at dropping the ball into that return zone where you have to return the ball. When we come back, we had a conversation earlier in the show with David Soderquist of HighTop Sports. He covers Florida. They will be, of course, taking on Houston in the national championship game tonight. If you missed that conversation, we'll play it for you again next. For the very first time, we bring on David Soderquist of HighTop Sports. He covers Florida, joins us on the show here on Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. David, thank you so much for taking time. I know you're probably inundated over these last couple of days with so much going on. Can you give us a sense of the tenor of the Florida fan base right now? Are they confident and calm as if they have a feeling this is inevitable and it's going to happen? Or after watching what Houston was able to do to a very, very good Duke team over the weekend, is the Florida fan base feeling a little bit nervous?
I think there's a little 50-50 there. I mean, I've talked to a bunch of Florida fans that watch our show. They feel very confident in the offense and the way that Walter Clayton's been playing and Elijah Martin down the stretch. But you also have the other 50% of the fan base that's kind of tame. They're, the nerves are up always, of course, for each team. You're playing for a national championship, something Florida hasn't been able to do since 2007 with we obviously know who was playing there, but I mean, the Florida fan base has always been almost there, but then something would happen. Ever since the Urban Meyer era and ever since, that era of basketball, Florida fans have just been, anticipating something to happen in one of the sports. And right now you're at the pinnacle. Of course, baseball has won their World Series, but when you get to March Madness, when you get to basketball, they always say Florida, football is the cash cow, but I would think the strongest second is men's basketball. And so you're seeing a lot of Florida fans more tame and just saying, hey, look, we think we can win this one easy, but let's be tame here because that Houston D is something for real.
They certainly are, David. It's Cole here. I heard a takeover the weekend on a podcast. I believe I saw it on TikTok, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it. That the experience from a fan's point of view of March Madness, having a team make a deep run, is by far the best fan experience at the college level, whether it be football, making a national championship, or baseball World Series. Would you agree that being on the run, the road, the ride throughout March, right, making a tournament and then making a run March, from the Florida fans that you know and have talked to, would they echo that sentiment in terms of this being the best fan experience one could have?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look at just March Madness and basketball as a whole throughout the years. I mean, your team has to be very battle tested. They have to be very. You can't make a lot of mistakes in games, and if you do, you got to make up for those mistakes. And you've really got to be on your P's and Q's in this tournament. I mean, there's 64 teams. Obviously, the playoff is kind of moving to a 16-team sort of thing, so you don't see it much in football as you do with basketball, but. There's a lot more games and there's a lot more grit and there's a lot more action in these games and a lot more emotion throughout the whole season, especially when your team is on a run like Florida, like a Houston, like a Duke that, their fans now down in the dumps thinking they were going to make it to a national championship. Houston comes back and upsets them. I'm sure everybody had Duke in their bracket at least going to the national championship, if not winning it. So I can understand where the emotional ride, especially not even just from a Florida fan aspect, from a fan aspect from any team being on that ride and getting all the way to the national championship and having to go through what you have to go through. It has to be, from an emotional fan standpoint, it has to be like heart attack stress level every single time that your team goes out there and plays because only one loss in that tournament and you're done. You're history. We saw it with Texas Tech. It looked like Florida was down and out against Texas Tech. They storm back. They win that game. A UConn team that won 2 national championships in a row. They go and play Florida one more time, and Florida pulls it off. And I'm sure UConn fans didn't feel great about that. So it's like, yeah, you make it all this way, and you just really, really, really want your team to win that national championship. I'm sure Houston fans are feeling the same way, but the Florida fans, especially, as I said, with not everything going since Billy Donovan and Urban Meyer have been here. They're really jonesing for a big title, either in men's basketball or football.
So, David, to that point, with 2 big time coaches on campus, who's the bigger rock star right now between Todd Golden and Billy Napier? Who I know Billy had his struggles, but he ended the 2024 season on a 5-game win streak. A lot of people, especially not so much the fans, because fans are fickle, but the people who know what kind of a coach Billy Napier is. And so who's the bigger rock star now? I think if Florida wins a national championship tonight, your answer might change.
Yeah, I would say that. If Todd Golden pulls this off, wins a national championship, you're going to have Florida fans saying, all right, Billy Napier, now it's your turn. So he would be the bigger rock star as of right now. And of course, you got to look at what Todd Golden's done with this team since he's been here. I mean, last year didn't go the way you wanted it to in the tournament. That was a very over 100 points for both teams that game. Didn't pull it off there. And then you come into the tournament now, you're sitting here in the national championship. Billy Napier, especially the Florida fans, especially me, I'm a big football guy. You've just been waiting. Okay, you've been recruiting almost top 5 in some cases. You'll have a number 7 class or number 8 class. We want to see you at least in that top 10 by the end of the season. It just hasn't panned out that way. Now with DJ Lagway coming in, you finish the season with him, on a high note. You win your 8 games. And now you're just jonesing. Okay, now it's Billy Napier's time to take the next step. So, regardless of whether Golden wins tonight or not, per se, I would still put Golden above that just because he's made it this far and people are still waiting for football to get on the right track.
David Soderquist joining us right here on the Fan Upstate on this Monday afternoon here in the upstate of South Carolina to talk about tonight's national championship game. David's with HighTop Sports. Make sure you give him a follow on Twitter on X at HighTop Dave. When you look at tonight's matchups, we just asked our audience in the very last segment, when you heard that this was going to be the matchup, when you saw that it was Florida-Houston, what was your initial reaction? What jumped off the page to you first?
After watching that Duke game, you had a sense that Duke just had that game won. They had a 14-point lead. They've been playing the most consistent down the stretch. You never really saw a game where Duke struggled in this tournament. They play Houston, they look the same way, and then towards the end of the game, I don't know if it was a coaching thing or Duke taking the foot off the gas pedal or Houston just playing really good defense down the stretch. I don't want to take anything away from Houston as well because their D is for real. You got a sense of, oh, man, we're going to have to play Duke. That's going to be hard. I don't know if we win that one. When Houston won, and I'll even admit, I said, oh, man, it just got easier for us. And I'll even admit, I said that. But at the same time, I still have that mutual respect for Houston pulling it off against Tennessee, making just Tennessee, Tennessee didn't even know what to do against Houston and just shutting down, some of their offense. And that's what Houston does. They're a very slow-playing team. They want to break you down if you have a high-powered offense. They want to hold you to 60, 70 points a game and kind of knock down, drag out. Now, they don't have the best offense, but their defense, as I said, it's elite. It's one of the best in the nation. It is the best in the nation. And I think, the matchup between Florida with their offense and the matchup with Houston, two different styles of play here in basketball. I think it's gonna make for a good matchup here. But I do think Florida's chances from a Florida fan standpoint got a little bit easier just in terms of I didn't want to play Duke myself, but you could probably ask somebody else outside of me and they'll probably call me crazy. So well, that's just kind of how I took it. But I'm not saying Florida's going to come in here just easily mollywop Houston or anything like that. But I think you had a little bit of a sigh of relief, at least from me.
David, I hope you didn't say that publicly on social media, that this just got easier for us, because fans absolutely will blame you for the loss. That's what fans do, right?
Right. Yeah, that's what they do. Yeah.
To what do you attribute in this Todd Golden era, especially this season, Florida's ability to go on long, sustained streaks of wins? Because there was a 13-game win streak early in the season, took a loss, went on a 6-game win streak. Then now you're currently on an 11-game win streak. You win tonight, it makes it 12. What is it about Coach Golden that just makes this team unflappable, even in situations where you're down? Because I think earlier we pulled a stat that Florida had come back to win down double digits 4 times this season.
I mean, if you look at it, you look down the stretch, just at Florida's schedule, they've been a very second-half team. Now, I don't know what Todd Golden does in that locker room at halftime. We heard I can't remember who it was from Barstool that said he happened to be just trying to get a drink from concessions and passed Florida's locker room during the last game played, and Todd Golden was just cursing them out. They were down by 8 against Auburn, and he's just cursing them out in the locker room. They come out, and they storm right back, and they tie the game right out of halftime. But I would say more of just I think the culture in that locker room's changed a little bit. I think a lot of those players are now more I wouldn't say that they were playing selfish per se, but I would say that they're all playing for each other. They're playing more team basketball. Of course, Walter Clayton has been a madman these past 2 games, scoring over 30-plus points per game. I mean, obviously that's the guy that everybody looks at if you're covering media-wise and says, wow, Walter Clayton's a monster. And he does, don't get me wrong. He has been clutch for the Florida Gators in a lot of these games down the stretch to where they have been able to pull it off. But you also got to tip your hat to Thomas Haw, who's made some very clutch shots at the end of these games. You also got to give Will Richard some credit. Alex Condon, he hurt his ankle a little bit. Hasn't been the same since he hurt his ankle, but he's made some clutch rebounds there as well. So I think, just putting this team together, especially in the transfer portal, a lot of people say, oh, well, these guys have no stars, and, they developed a little bit through college, but, Todd Golden did his homework in the transfer portal, and I think that's what really set him apart from a lot of these teams. And I think he's just an analytical guy. He's a student of the game, and I really, really think he gets the most out of his players.
David, it's funny. Diesel and I earlier in the show talked about, the storylines thus far, I guess, in college basketball season with from the time college basketball season started to now with Janai Broome and Cooper Flagg. It seemed like those two took up most of the narratives in the college basketball season with the media. But Walter Clayton Jr. just, I don't want to say quietly, has all season long went about his business, done his thing, and all of a sudden now looks like that he may be the most trusted player, not only in the postseason, but in tonight's game. Is it just that simple for you, that the fact that Florida does have Walter Clayton Jr., a guy tonight in this matchup who has been super trustworthy thus far in the tournament, that I guess I don't want to say it gives us the easy ability or the easy pick in picking Florida, but I guess it does provide some level of comfort. Is it that easy for you as well?
Yeah, in a way. I mean, if you're a Florida fan, you can look at Walter Clayton and say, well, at least he's good for at least 20 points. Even if he has a bad game, he's good for at least 20. We watched the UConn game, and it looked like they defended Walter Clayton pretty well. It came down to the stretch. As I said, Houston plays really good defense. I am sure they're going to double Clayton. They're going to be on top of him as much as they can. But Clayton has this just ability to juke out of the way and make players think he can misdirect them enough to where he can get open and quickly shoot a three. So accurate that he's really hard to stop. I think that's what sets him apart from most of the basketball players out here. But for I just don't want to say that this team's Walter Clayton. I mean, we've seen Elijah Martin step up in games. We've seen Alex Condon get us rebounds. We saw Will Richard step up. We've seen Haw step up at the end of these games. So, you don't want to necessarily pin it all on Walter Clayton, but, I mean, let's be honest. This guy's been playing like a madman down the stretch. So, I would say quietly, I guess. He's kind of came I think based on the last two games being over 30-plus, I think now he's really came onto the scene. It is wild, though, when you think about it. The most two talked about players, Flagg and Broome, are not even playing in the national championship when a lot of people thought that they were.
At HighTop Dave is where you can find David Soderquist on Twitter. Make sure you go and give him a follow. What are your thoughts on the environment that Florida will be playing in tonight? As obviously a lot of Auburn and Duke fans are dumping their tickets on the secondary market. You got to think that a lot of Houston fans there in the state of Texas are going to gobble those up. But, the Florida fan base is rabid as well. How many Florida fans do you think are hopping on flights right now real quick trying to get over to San Antonio and fill up this 68,000-seat venue?
Wow, that's crazy. But if you follow Dick Delatorre, one of my buddies that covers a lot of Florida sports, part of Florida Victorious, he's been posting a lot of videos and pictures of a lot of Florida fans down there. So I'm not physically down there. I did text him earlier, and I texted a couple other people, asked them, okay, what's the atmosphere look like? What does the Florida fan turnout look like? And he said there's a ton. There was more than what he expected. Of course, like you said, it's in the heart of it's in the heart of San Antonio. The Houston ticket. There's going to be a lot of home Houston guys wanting to go to this game, and gals as well. So any national championship environment is going to be pretty hostile. Usually it's a split crowd, but I guess it's kind of like a little bit of a home game necessarily, but you're always going to play in a hostile environment, especially when it's the national championship game. There's just going to be so much pressure on both teams. So I think that's going to matter a little bit. But as far as I know, there's been a lot of Florida fans in attendance there too. We'll just have to see what it looks like when the lights come on tonight at 8:50.
David, speaking of that, as we let you go, what do you think happens tonight?
I think Florida, I think it starts out slow. Houston loves to slow play a lot of these offenses. Now, I will say Florida has played some great teams that have some great defense. They did have one of those little bad. They had a really bad game against Tennessee this year, but they have beat them twice. You rarely see Florida score 40 or 50 points per game. I think Houston's D matches up well with Florida, but I think Florida, honestly, and this isn't a bias, this isn't orange and blue glasses here. I just think Florida has too many weapons on offense, and Walter Clayton, he's a distraction as well. That opens up a lot more players under the rim, like your Elijah Martins, your Will Richards, your Alec Condon, your Thomas Haws, who's one of their best bench players right now. So, but you also got to look out for Houston. They have a lot of good players like Jawan Roberts, LJ Cryer. They could not let him go off this game. They have they have the best 3-point percentage in the nation, but also at the same time they don't shoot many 3-pointers as much as any other teams do. So, I think just eyeing it from a fan standpoint, I think Florida wins, and it's not, as I said, it's not orange and blue glasses, but that does not mean that Houston can force Florida to have to go without Walter Clayton or force them to do things that they don't want to do since their styles of play are so differently. And Houston can easily slow this offense down and pull this one off. We saw what they did against Duke. Nobody thought they could beat Duke. They beat them 70-67. So if Houston wins, I think they win by a couple of points. If Florida wins, I think their offense will carry them maybe 8 to 10 points in a victory.
David, great stuff, man. We appreciate you hopping on with us, and it should be a fun one. We'll do it again soon, man.
All right. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Let's try that bumper. The other one was the wrong one. Put the Limp Bizkit little ending in there. I wasn't paying attention there. Rookie mistake. A little update for you around the MLB. As we said earlier, thankfully, Diesel, Braves fans today don't have to worry about the Braves losing. It is a great day. Didn't have to worry about it yesterday either. So 2 days in a row, it's been a really, really good day for Braves fans. It's been a rough start. Obviously, the Braves back in action tomorrow. But we'll take our days off while we can get them.
Is Atlanta the new Mudville?
I would hope not.
Casey at the bat. You know that old poem, Casey at the bat. Yeah, the cartoon. I remember the cartoon when I was a kid, and it was just Casey, this big buff, big bat swinging ball player, out in the rain in the mud trying to hit home runs, and he can't hit the ball.
Only bad thing is for the Atlanta Braves, it's going to get tough. They have the Phillies starting tomorrow night in Atlanta. It's a homestand, but Philly is the only team that's beaten the Dodgers. Philly took 2 of 3 from the Dodgers this past weekend, so the Braves, the road doesn't get any easier. Currently 1-8. Philadelphia 7-2 on the season. Again, tomorrow night, Zach Wheeler versus Chris Sale. That's the pitching matchup tomorrow night for the Atlanta Braves. Currently underway, Cardinals-Pirates. That one's scoreless. Bottom of the first. Top of the first, Dodgers-Nationals just started. You would think the Dodgers would get back on track in this one. Blue Jays-Red Sox, scoreless. Top of the first, that one just started as well. Blue Jays 5-5, Red Sox 6-4. Tonight, the Marlins-Mets 7:10, Twins and Royals at 7:40, Rangers and Cubs at 7:40, and then the Orioles and Diamondbacks at 9:40. Houston versus Seattle, the Reds-Giants, the Padres-A's. That is your Major League Baseball menu for tonight, Diesel, and then the game that most will have their eye on tonight, the National Championship. Number one in all sports and college is dumb being on a Monday, or at least for football and basketball. The World Series is spread out throughout the week, obviously, with it being a series and not just one game. But number one, I don't like college basketball. I don't like the national championship rather being on a Monday night. Number two, 9 o'clock start. That's also dumb. That's a very late start. Florida tonight favored by 1.5, but I guess we're going to have to watch it whenever we can, Diesel, since it is a Monday at 9 o'clock.
Yeah, so it's a 7:50 local time there in Texas tip-off. They got to start thinking about TV audiences. Move this thing to a 7 o'clock tip Central time, which would make it at 8 p.m. Eastern time. I don't think there's there's no reason why a national championship game, Super Bowl, World Series game, anything like that should start after 8 p.m.
Yeah, again, they don't care about us.
Because they expand these games. They fill it full of extra advertising, slows things down. And then at the end of the day, Cole, that is the end of the day. And you're going to have a large portion of your audience dipping out, even if the game is compelling, and say, you know what, I'll just go back and check the score in the morning.
They don't care about us. I don't know why, but they don't. Again, the Super Bowl, I'm fine with. It's like 6:40 or whatever.
Yeah.
So, it's 10 o'clock by the time it usually ends. But college basketball, college football, man, I don't know why it's so late.
That's funny because Daniel Tosh, comedian, used to do a bit that God hates West Coast NFL fans.
Yeah.
Because Sunday 1 o'clock games tip off at 10 a.m. their time.
It's true. And it's true. I mean, that is a good point, and I get it. But you know what? I'd rather have 10 a.m. football, Diesel, rather than,
10 p.m. basketball.
Basketball national championship starting at 9 o'clock. Ugh, that sucks.
Tolo's been a blast as always. We'll catch you again tomorrow. Some compelling conversations we're going to have tomorrow. This one's really interesting. I'm excited to talk about this. Could there be buyouts coming to college football? One coach thinks yes, and I'll see what you think about it tomorrow.